I feel like one of these days you guys will say yes, and then you guys just will not be ready completely.
I mean, we're kind of not ready already.
We had several days to prepare, and we're still not ready. Anyways, we are live now. Hello, everyone. Let me just turn on some music. Welcome. Today we will be discussing the Back to School campaign 2021 units, as well as a couple of ARs that were released around the same period of time. Joining me today are Irby.
Hello, I think these units are very cool.
Well, that makes one of us so far. And Zalgus.
Hello, it's me. I think some of the units are cool at least.
And yep, that's two of us, I guess, and only just two. Let's just start with this discussion and pull out the assets. Let's close that title card and open up Back to School here. Alright, so today we will be starting off with one of the ARs. LifeWonders has released a free AR for the Guild Masters, which you can equip to any 2-star or below, as well as a new tag for the units. All the cards in the game have released a new tag for what guild they belong to, and now it actually affects the game because this card can only be equipped on units whose tags include Berserkers or Missionaries or Tycoons. So, yeah, I think that's interesting, and it's just by itself. Hello, Milk. Glad you can make it. Honestly, I don't think that these cards' effects are too interesting. Just equip it on Andvari, essentially, because the ally point gain is negligible in the first place. You're going to gain a lot more from login bonuses. And rank EXP, I mean, it's like you're only going to really reap a rank EXP a lot if you grind something, and Andvari is like the prime unit to grind anything with, for coin, obviously. There's a phase start arousal ability, but it's like I don't really know like who would super benefit from it for just a phase start ability.
I think it's really cool because it can trigger units after buff effect at the very least, and it can help when clearing out, doing one-turn strats, not for dailies, but for other quests where you actually require that charge. There also can actually be useful.
I guess. It could
It's
be
also
Sorry,
100%. It's also 100%,
Yeah,
since
pretty
you can
much.
buy it.
I just feel like it's a poor man's oath of abundance. Like, it's on a buff, so it doesn't apply immediately, and it's only 10 CP rather than 15 CP. It could work with like Kasuga, but like Kasuga has no problems getting his charge up already. Like, he doesn't need any more help getting his charge up, for real.
Well, sorry, not everyone can have 5-star Shiro AR.
This is all right. Well, give it a bit, and like in a few months, this AR will also be even more impossible to get than that one.
This is limited.
Yeah, so this AR is super limited. Make sure you get it. It's going to, I believe its distribution is going to end in June. So make sure you get all copies by then. And then it will probably never be obtainable after that. So yeah, some of these ARs are actually just
I honestly don't believe that it will never be obtainable again.
We already have ARs that aren't
probably.
obtainable again. Like, those freebie ARs for like, the remove a debuff turns 4, 5, 6 or other freebie ARs to drop. We still don't have any way of obtaining them.
We also thought Triton wouldn't be available again since it took forever for them to reprint the Go-Go banner, and they reprinted it at some point.
Okay, fair enough, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm giving it a year or two before they re-release
The
this.
same happened with the new semester banners. When we thought, oh, they never rerun new semester banners. Last year, new semester banners have been rerun for some reason. So who knows? Maybe they will rerun this AR. Maybe it will take 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. But I think they will rerun it.
I'm not sure how they'd rerun it. They'd have to like put it in the shop again or something, because they're not gonna. It's very unlikely they're gonna put this in some sort of banner to grab on, because they don't. LifeWonders doesn't generally seem to put on free content on banners. So yeah, we'll just have to wait for it to be on the shop again. Hey, Mark.
Hey, the New Year's stuff was all free, and those were on banners.
Was it? New Year's?
No,
Oh, yes. Those don't count. Those don't count, obviously. But yeah, I would say this AR isn't too interesting. Just equip it on Andvari, and equip it whenever you're grinding literally anything. And I just think it's interesting for it's what it represents in terms of being able to be in terms of being the beginning of being able to filter ARs by the guilds they belong to, and obviously most likely in the future they're gonna put them ARs equipable only to units who belong to a particular school, because that's also a new tag.
Are we gonna judge new units for their guild now and school?
Perhaps.
I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe we will. Another thing you can equip this AR to is in actual events, in case you don't roll for the actual event AR banner, or in case there isn't an AR bonus. Who knows? Maybe you're the only person that has the event 5-star, but you actually didn't roll on the AR banner, or there isn't an AR banner, and it can equip this AR.
Yeah, true.
You can also equip it on it, since you're going to reap the maximum benefits from it, since event quests are still the highest awarding rank XP quests, I think, so far, in terms of stamina.
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, the coin scuffle campaign right now is really shit in terms of rank XP, I'm pretty sure, but...
Ara, you still have the coin scuffle icons in the background.
Right, I don't even... I just, like, phase them out of my mind. Let me just hide them right now.
Yeah, I only just realized I wasn't paying attention.
Super prepared, as you can see. Anyways,
Wow.
that never happened.
At least the Volkh Swan wasn't visible.
Anyways. I guess, do you guys have any other thoughts on this before I move on?
Nah, it's pretty simple.
Alright, I'll just read the comments and I'll go ahead then. I should put this on my Gima or something. I mean, he doesn't benefit from Arousal, but I guess sure. If he means support Gima, perhaps. Yeah, he's a Berserker, I guess, so you could use it.
He's a Tycoon.
Or Tycoon. I don't know why I said Berserker, whoops. I'm awake during the Ara stream. Howdy. Hello, hello. So, you know, it's a big stat stick. I mean, we have better stat boosts right now with the 4-star ones that give 600 or even 800. This one is just 500 each, which is like, I don't know. Like, there's not really a reason why you'd want to increase both at the same time like that.
Just use the Salomon Anniversary AR for, what was it, 600?
Yeah, 600 attack. But a good one. Yeah. Alright.
Oh yeah, there's stacks with that, by the way. The Salomon one. So equip both of them. For rank EXP.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on to, if you will, I want to hear your pronunciation for this, Salkas.
Okay, this unit is called Volkh Vseslav.
Alright, decent pronunciation. I'll give you 7 out of 10 for that.
Fine. Anyway, he's colloquially known as Bonk, unfortunately, but I will try and say Volkh for the sake of professionalism.
Go ahead.
Right, so Volkh, he is a infernal unit. He's blow at 3-star and thrust at 4-star. He kind of 5-star pun. If only it was a 4-star, that would actually be really nice. Anyway, Volkh, I will describe him as a all-rounder. He's kind of got a little of everything, but he's also got some nice unique gimmicks to him. So I'll talk about the stuff that's the same on both kits first, or I'll talk about stuff that's the same or is different on his 3-star first. His 3-star possesses people. He hits at a poor rate of 30%. Both rarities deal extra damage to rulers, or people with the ruler skill, so tycoons, basically. It's literally just tycoons. He also deals extra damage to units with nullified debuff and reflect debuff. He has this kind of kit that revolves around debuffs, so that's kind of neat. He's immune to possession, and both rarities will heal by 400 HP every time he receives a buff. Well, 50% of the time. So that synergizes well with anyone who spits out a lot of buffs onto him, particularly short-lasting buffs. It's anyone who provides like tenacity, protection, arousal, stuff like that. You should also like try the tried and true Lianan, because she gives a lot of buffs, even though it doesn't synergize well with the limit. But you might just want Bonk to Volkh to survive. There's also like it's on Daikoku and one of the new units, Akiha. They all give lots of or give short duration defense buffs, so they can heal him a lot, and Daikoku can also heal him too, so that's nice. The 400 heal actually counters a negative part of Volkh's kit in his 5-star, or actually in both rarities. So at the start of every turn, Volkh will curse himself at a 90% rate, and as long as he's holding any debuff, he will take 0.1 times damage, and he'll deal 5 times damage if it's curse. The 5 times damage multiplier is actually 2 times because he's not immune to curse per se, but he still deals 2 times extra damage. So because of this, whenever he's holding a debuff, he's extremely tanky, since he only takes 10% of the damage. Well, 15% because he's infernal. And every time he takes damage, he removes a debuff. So he can only block 1 hit per debuff. He also takes 1 flat damage after he gets a debuff, so he'll slowly die from killing himself with curse. He's actually really resistant to debuffs, because he'll keep removing debuffs as he gets hit. Even though he'll be taking flat damage, it just kind of makes it hard to put debuffs onto him, because he'll just remove it instead. It does not prioritize curse. I wasn't actually able to pin down the priority, but I tested it with Shenong, who poisons him, and it seemed to remove either or a lot of the time. So yeah, sometimes it would just remove curse several times in a row, then it would remove poison several times in a row. I seriously could not figure out how it works, but yeah, it's entirely possible that he'll just remove debuffs as he gets them, instead of curse, or if he doesn't have curse, he'll just remove anyway. But yeah, on hit debuffs really do not work on Volkh, because he'll just remove them right away. He will still take the flat damage, but yeah, he's tanky enough to survive that. Incidentally, this also means that when attacking, apply debuff skills will make Volkh really tanky, because they'll apply the debuff, he'll gain the 0.1 times defense multiplier, and then he'll remove the debuff. So he's naturally tanky, normally only for 1 hit from his own curse, but yeah, resistant against debuffs quite a lot. He can also pair him with pretty much just Shenong 4, who poisons allies every turn, to give him another layer of defense. I don't think we have any other units who really applies debuffs for Volkh to use for defensive purposes.
You free on leave.
They're not.
No. It does not exist.
But yeah, he pairs well with Shenong for the poison. I will specify that its debuff strengthening is only on removable debuffs. The reason for this is there is a irremovable debuff later on that, well, actually any irremovable debuff, because if you could like equip an AR with an irremovable debuff, that would be completely broken. So yeah, it has to be a removable debuff. But what?
I mean, you can, but it's just
it doesn't really benefit.
Yeah.
So one thing that's interesting though is if Volkh becomes skill locked, he can no longer remove his debuffs, but because the debuff strengthening is a permanent buff, a irremovable buff, he now has a permanent 0.1 defense multiplier as long as he's skill locked, because he can't remove the skill lock anymore. I thought this was pretty interesting. So you can actually take him into maps and intentionally get him skill locked, and then he can now face tank everything.
Like he's 2 turns as long as curse lasts.
Curse? He doesn't.
No.
It's debuff strengthening, not curse strengthening for the defense.
Yeah, it's debuff strengthening, not
I
curse
see.
strengthening is the attack.
Yeah, so if he's skill locked, he'll just be taking no damage, and he won't be. He can't, reduce his health from getting debuffs either. So he'll be doing less damage once his curse runs off. But other than that, yeah, he's really tanky as well. So yeah, he counters skill lock maps pretty well, I'd say. Well, that's a bit general to say, but yeah, that's certainly a synergy, and something that would be nice in future if we got a unit who could skill lock allies, then Volkh would synergize really well, because you just make Volkh a super tank. This also so all this debuff synergy means that Volkh has anti-synergy with anyone who removes debuffs from Volkh, because then he'll turn into paper, because he has an infernal unit with no other but defensives. If he hasn't got cursed, then he's just going to die when he gets hit.
Yeah, don't bring him with nullified debuff units, or remove debuff units like Aizen.
Yeah, especially not Aizen. That's like the biggest anti-synergy. Anyway, that's it for about the defensive side of the kit. On the offense side, at 5-star, he gives himself crit at 9% on phase start, and he applies non-debuff weakening for 3 turns. Non-debuff weakening is a 0.5 attack multiplier and a 2.5 defense multiplier. This, combined with his curse strengthening, his crit, and his non-debuff weakening, it does quite a lot of burst on turn 1. He does about 59k damage, which is pretty high. And non-debuff weakening is also interesting for being a easily applicable, irremovable debuff that actually modifies attack. We've had some others before that modify defense, like burn weakening. Volkh is the first one who can reduce someone's attack permanently, assuming they have no debuffs. So against enemies who purge debuffs constantly or are immune, Volkh can just completely circumvent that, which is interesting in of itself. I can't actually think of an example right now, but that's something to keep in mind. Volkh also has some. He also does possession in a wide slash range whenever he gets a debuff. So whenever he curses himself, for example, it's only 50%, but it's actually a pretty decent rate for what we normally get.
I think the more interesting thing part is just the trigger condition is a lot more generous, I guess.
Actually, I have something interesting to say about that. So this is something I tested. If Volkh gets a debuff while the enemy is attacking and he triggers possession, any enemies who haven't attacked yet and are now possessed, they will actually attack behind them. So he can interrupt the enemy phase, basically, by possessing whoever hasn't attacked.
Yeah, nice point. So they'll actually be possessed for 2 turns, actually, not just 1 turn.
I don't actually know if they'll be possessed for 2 turns, because it's still the enemy phase, and, they'll take down, but...
they would get it only when their turn begins, which means it'll be the first full turn. And then when their next turn comes by, it'll experience 1 tick downwards, and then it'll be from 2 turns to 1 then, which they'll still be possessed.
I should have tested a bit longer, because I exited right after testing it that it worked, but yeah, he can possess enemies in the middle of the turn, which can be interesting to play around with. Anyway, that's about it for his kit. I would say for ARs, there are only 2 I can think of. Spirit of Zen AR with Shuten and Oniwaka for the concentration, because he has several 90% raised, so you don't want his curse to fail or something, because that would leave him really defenseless. So the concentration is nice. The other one I was thinking of was a moment of the year's first bath, which is the Shenong Gyumao New Year's AR that heals after debuff, and it heals for 400. So it can cancel out the HP loss that Volkh suffers whenever he gets a debuff. Only at 8% rate, but still being able to cancel it out is nice. So yeah, in conclusion, I'd say he's a strong all-rounder unit. He plays around with debuffs, and he's got some interesting uses with his irremovable debuffs and whatnot. He hits really hard on turn 1, and he hits decently hard on subsequent rounds. He synergizes very badly with anyone who can remove debuffs on Volkh. He also kind of has anti-synergy with people who applies debuffs, since his non-debuff weakening won't work. So keep that in mind when you're trying to build a team, that you might...
Yeah, I think the non-debuff weakening is kind of like a weird way to, what's it called? punish the enemy if they happen to like not be possessed, but it's only like in thrust range whenever he attacks. So it's kind of a desynchronized set, I guess, gotcha there between possession being long slash and his attack being in thrust range. But it's still nice to have. It kind of reminds me of a Masanori's tout, which we'll talk about eventually.
Yeah, I think he's a fairly strong. He's a strong unit. He's kind of general purpose. I said that he doesn't synergize well with debuff units, but honestly, you could just chuck him in anyway, and like you could make him go first maybe, and so he can just take advantage of his big non-debuff weakening burst. It's not like it cancels out the other debuffs. The other debuffs will work just fine, but you know he won't be able to take advantage of it afterwards. But he still works with them just fine.
Yep.
I actually used them a couple of times, and I thought it was a pretty neat unit to actually work with units that can bestow a lot of buffs, because generally you want to take advantage of that tankiness that he has, so pairing him up with units that can heal him to ensure that he doesn't kill himself and still has a little bit of HP to tank through everything is a pretty neat idea, in my opinion.
I actually used him Volkh. I have Volkh 5, and I used him with Lianan on the Warmongers quest, and they basically, because I was kind of playing sloppily, so after the first phase everyone else died, and then Lianan and Volkh just killed everything, because he kept healing like 2000 HP every time.
Okay, we need to pick up the pace here. Sorry, but we're about 20 minutes in, and we're only in first unit. So...
there's a lot to talk about, and also I was kind of running on.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think he's one of the more interesting units we got. But we got a lot of interesting units, to be honest, in this banner.
Volkh good, yes.
Volkh is good, yes.
He's okay, I guess. Yeah, I don't have much to say about him personally. I think that he has a neat little, what's called consistent thing going on with debuffs. But looking at his actual damage calculations, it's like 39k or something at best when you have crit as well as possession up or something. But I don't know.
Yep. On turn 1 it's like 59k.
59k? I think I calculated something different. 39k was crit, curse strengthening, and non-debuff weakening.
Yeah, that's what I calculated. I might have left something out. I might have left like thrust multiplier, but I would say he still does quite a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's okay, I guess. I don't know. He's a weird kind of tank. Like, you can look at his get, and he doesn't inflict any like removable damage debuffs or defense buffs. He only really tanks through his his special statuses, as well as possession and weight kind of tanks too, by preventing them from attacking you. But yeah, I guess it's a neat way to describe him as a tank who doesn't have any usual tank abilities.
I'm sure we'll get synergies in future with the units who inflict debuffs to allies. Maybe. Anyway, shall I read the comments?
Yep, unless there's anything else to add, Irby?
No.
Alright, go ahead.
Alright. I mean, for support units, doesn't it give 100 people use it? That's
ally points for
FP.
Yeah,
FP. Yeah, I think so.
It gives 100%, not 100. So it would give you 100% of 25, which is 25 more. That's
great. Hi, Lassie. Skill level Volkh 1 for more damage. Yes, you would get the lower level curse, but then your crit would suck in. But yes, that is something you could do, I guess. He reminds me of Shenlong 4 vaguely. Kind of, I guess. Shenlong 4 is a good partner for him with the debuffs, but they kind of fill different roles. Shenlong's more of a support, Volkh is a frontline tank, or bruiser, I would say. This does a lot of damage too. Are there any units that revolve around giving allies debuffs? If not, I guess Mephistopheles is the best unit to pair with Volkh. No, that doesn't work. As I found out earlier, debuff strengthening, I said, specifically says a removable debuff. The debuff you are referring to is a irremovable debuff, therefore it should not work with debuff strengthening. I didn't actually test that, unfortunately, but it shouldn't work. So yes, Mephistopheles doesn't synergize that strongly with Volkh. I was hoping he would. That would be That would be completely broken.
Actually a pretty common misconception that I've seen circling around, everyone saying Mephistopheles is best unit for Volkh because of...
Imagine presuming something without testing it out. I mean,
I'll test it later. I'm sure it doesn't. It probably doesn't work anyway. Also, given his 5-star title, Volkh is absolute Fire Emblem player. Still talking about child soldiers and Fire Emblem. Mark, no. Alright, let's move along.
Alright. Next up, we have Mephistopheles, who will be covered by Irby. Irby?
Hello. Honestly, I just pronounce it Mephistopheles because that is how he pronounces it in game, at least, or at least how I hear it.
I think like Japanese always pronounce it like that.
Yeah, it's probably just a Japanese pronunciation, but it just stuck with me because I actually did use them a lot in those very bad challenge quests. So basically, he's a single target mix support. A lot of people make a lot of comparisons with Lianan. Personally, while there are some similarities, I don't see it, to be honest. He works very differently. First of all, his primary gimmick, or well, his primary thing is applying a debuff and a buff after he moves to an ally in front of him. Basically, these two have a special synergy together. The debuff lasts 6 turns and reduces the skill rate of the unit to 0%, which makes them unable to trigger any skills, and also makes them take an additional 10k flat damage whenever they are hit, which basically means they are very dead unless they are a fashionista Sath that is seeded or something like that. It means the unit is very dead, but this effect is cancelled out if they have the 2-turn buff Deal of the Devil on as well. These effects are completely negated, and the unit gains a ridiculously high attack boost, an increase in defense, makes them take a lot less damage, and also makes them regenerate 20 CP every turn, which is pretty good. It's a high powered buff that can really boost a unit. Unlike Lianan, it actually can make the unit in front of him tanky, just so it doesn't die to a single hit. So it's actually pretty neat. He also himself has additional tools to help further mitigate damage, not only to the unit in front, but also to himself. He gives himself defense up on and reflect debuff on phase start, just in case that he himself gets hit, because he does not inflict these special statuses to himself. And he also applies Dazzle on whenever he hits a unit, which kind of helps dampen the damage even further. One thing I didn't mention is that this buff and this debuff are irremovable, which we kind of talked about before, to be honest. But I'm going to say it again. So, which means they cannot actually be removed through any means. So yeah, one thing there is to note is that the debuff actually lasts longer than the buff, so eventually you will want to keep moving, or not, but we can talk about that later. You will want to keep moving Mephistopheles behind the unit to reapply this buff. Just so they don't get that massive penalty of 0% skill rate and 10k flat damage increase, which basically means dead unit. So you have to keep constantly, every 2 turns at least, move him behind the unit that has the price of contract to refresh this. This has some interesting synergy with some units that actually bestow themselves, that actually have turn start effects For instance, when the 2-turn buff, Deal of the Devil, runs out, and a new turn starts, you can actually this actually means that the unit's turn start will actually be 0% skill rate because the buff has already been over. So you can actually pair him with units like Christmas Kalki or Baby Bunyan if you want. So Kalki doesn't remove his own buffs, and you can actually save your own buffs that way, even though you don't need it when using Christmas Kalki. But it can be useful if you want to launch his CS with all his buffs on. In addition to deal with the devil, if you move him behind him once again, which is pretty neat. He also has a lot of things that, personally, I think are kind of dumb, but they are still there.
I mean, his dazzle rate is pretty respectable, 90%.
I already talked about dazzle before. Most of the stuff I talked about is pretty neat. One thing I forgot to talk about is that he actually heals himself whenever he moves, so it actually helps him keep himself alive. Not the unit in front, but that's all right. The other things I was talking about, which are kind of a meme, which is like he has this new status, which is Blessing Weakening, which means whenever he has Blessing, he takes 1200 HP every turn damage. It's kind of a meme, to be honest. I guess it's just a lore meme.
Thing. Yeah.
It's a lore meme. He's also immune to darkness, which I guess is okay. His CS applies Reflect debuff, and Possession also drops the unit's CPs on shot range. But personally, I don't think this is why you're using this unit. You're using this unit to buff.
Yeah, there's like units that are specialized for their charge, and then there are other units that are specialized for their main kits. This is a unit that's specialized in main kit. The charge is kind of a throwaway.
Even though the Reflect debuff can be really useful for allies, because even though he can boost the units in front of him defense, he can't protect them from debuffs in any way. So it can be useful in that sense, but you have no way to charge his CP unless you really plan for it. He also has, after being hit, apply skill lock at 40% on his 4-star, which is incredibly unreliable. And
even though skill lock is a good debuff, and you would think it's a free rate, but actually LifeWonders has been a lot more generous than expected when it comes to when being hit skill lock effects. It's usually like at 90% or even 100%, like with us.
Yeah, but this one being 40% and it being after being hit is kind of bad. He also has the biggest meme of all. When he dies, he applies countdown to all the enemies on the board, and also to himself and allies one square around himself.
He just like sticks out a middle finger to every direction. Fuck y'all, fuck you, fuck my team, fuck myself, I'm out of here.
Fuck you. I guess you can prevent this if you use him with units that are immune to countdown, or that have the DRs that make units immune to countdown. If you really don't want, or if you want to apply countdown on the whole board, this is probably the easiest way, I guess, to get countdown on the whole board at once. Just let your Mephistopheles die, and no, everyone has countdown at 100%.
I mean,
there you go.
She's out a CQ in future.
I mean, to be fair, using countdown on the enemy on leave, like I've done it before, it's pretty useful in some cases. It's a sizable amount, like 20k over, like, this would be 40k actually, wouldn't it? Because it's like the full status. Yeah, it'd be 40k. Actually,
it'd be full.
20 plus full. 20, yeah, 40k. So that'd be a lot of damage. And, you know, challenge quest enemies typically have maybe like 20k to 100k if they're meant to be killed or something. If they're not meant to be killed, it'd be like 10 million and with some stupid defense buff.
Yeah, it can also be, if you really want to do the big brain strats, you can do this for the limit synergy. Yeah, let's go limit synergy with your
Let's go Mephistopheles synergy with Horus. Just bring everyone to guts with limit, and Mephisto bring it in turn 1.
Let's go. That is the true new meta that Greek would face to the But no, his main character is really double devil. He has a lot of faults. Mostly, the biggest issue he has is he has no extra movement at all. He has no horizontal movement, no vertical movement, and that is honestly very terrible, especially if you're using him with units with short range and you want to further advance. Usually Lianan is equipped with vertical movement, just so that you can continue pushing the board forward if you're using units with low range. But Mephistopheles does not have that, and he also does not have the horizontal movement, which is also a lot more useful than the vertical movement most of the times. And yeah, that kind of takes it away from this multi-purpose support that he could have been, but he isn't.
Yeah, there's like an archetype of units that move and buff the units ahead of them, and oftentimes they're known for having extend movement. Mephisto just doesn't, so it's like, I don't know, you best hope that the unit in front can like reach every unit somehow, I guess. Otherwise you're not gonna have a good time moving for 2 turns to the next unit. As a side note, Irby mentioned that what's it called? Yeah, when the Dell expires on the turn start next, all their abilities will be at 0% in terms of activation rate. That's actually, you know, I mean, the consequence of that is it's actually unavoidable even if you keep on moving Mephisto directly behind the unit. So even if you constantly keep up, deal with the devil 3 times to match, you know, the length of the price of contract, that unit will still not be able to activate their turn start skills on like turns, I guess 3 and 5 and 7 when, well, I guess just 3 and 5 when those when deal with the level expires but price of contract is still present. So keep that in mind. You're most likely going to want to buff a unit in front who is not reliant on turn start abilities.
You're just using Christmas Calci.
Yeah.
So just so you skip an attack reduction or just skip your buff cleanse.
Yeah. Or regular Calci, actually, because if you've seen Milk's video, he did a very neat meme with double regular Calci paired with Mephistopheles, blowing up the entire board several times. That was pretty fun.
Oh, yeah. That is pretty neat.
Anything to add, Zelgus?
Yeah, so we were talking about this. I was talking about this earlier with Volkh, but someone mentioned to use Mephistopheles, but like I was saying earlier, price of the contract is an irremovable debuff, so yeah, it won't work with Volkh, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it would still work with skills that are activated by after debuff, because that's a different trigger that accepts all types of debuffs. Whereas Volph's thing is specific to removal ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I would ask for more, but you know, we're already 4 minutes in, so Irby, please read the comments. Irby?
Where did we left off last time?
Good luck with that.
Mark, no.
Mark, no. Memphis, Tennessee, banned on Twitter.
More like Mephistopheles.
I don't understand the reference, but let's go. Meph's here, ending phase start buff. They become dependent on Mephisto, which is what he wants. Yeah, pretty much. That's what happens. I wish Meph.
Have you ever seen like any shows with deals with devils? I used to watch the show like Supernatural, and I believe there's this entire thing with a deal with the devil there too. And yeah, it's essentially they depend on the people they make contracts with for their own purposes for whatever reason. Okay, sorry, go on.
It's a pretty neat thing. I wish Meph had immunity to at least one kind of movement debuff instead of darkness that is worthless considering. Oh yeah. Yeah, that is kind of something that I completely skipped over. He is not immune to any movement impairment debuff. So if he gets feared or oppressed or breaked or whatever, that can be really bad for your team, and that can probably end everything. He does have the reflect debuff to help, but it's only on phase start, and he can only reapply it on his charge. So that's kind of why I chose the ERs I chose in the actual asset. For instance, the Triton AR is mostly just for the reflect to the adjacent units, not to himself. But the Marie AR, which helps with the nullify, with the extra nullify debuff, and an extra layer to prevent him to get debuffed. I also put there Claude because it's pretty much the perfect AR for him.
Yeah, he's always behind them anyways.
He's always going to be behind the units, so it's perfect.
It's like a really strong support AR. And the only reason like it wouldn't work was Lian. Does that AR heal too? I think it heals too, doesn't it? It's CP for sure.
It gives CP and heals, yes.
Yeah, that's the only reason I wouldn't necessarily recommend with Lian, because anti limits energy. But otherwise, it really is perfectly suited for
You can use it with her anyways. I think it's just
range.
you can also pair him with the free AR we got from the Desert Journey reprint, which helps remove a debuff, which counters that argument that I had before that he had no way to protect his ally from debuffs. Well, this AR would help cleanse the allies' debuffs that he's buffing, just to keep them healthy at least. I also put the Ebisu AR just to give it an extra heal, just in case that. And the Licht AR is a meme because he's not really going to deal any damage, but hey, at least he can take advantage of that dazzle advantage.
It's when attacking dazzle. Amazing! It's finally there.
Finally here, we did it.
The unit we've been waiting for all this time. The strongest unit ever.
Oh yeah, Mephistopheles doesn't really have skill seed bait because his main gimmick is 100%. You can you can live without the 90% stuff.
Dazzle
on
attack. Oh well.
Dazzle. What about Dazzle? No, I was just kidding. Another thing I didn't mention was that his 3-star is kind of bad because his deal with the devil and price of contract aren't 100%, so that can potentially screw you over big time.
I'm sure Zalgus would contradict that. Actually, I would disagree with that too.
I haven't done anything yet, but
okay. But I guess I was just talking with Zalgus a bit about it early on, since it was in our units anyways. That this would actually be good for 3-star runs, just because like even though it is a low rate, it's still the same 6 times multiplier, right? And it's like that's better than 3-star Liam.
Yeah, but you can't refresh it on turn 3 or on turn 5. That is terrible.
Yeah,
that pretty much means the unit dies.
I mean, who knows? Maybe 3-star board clears will exist, and there'll be like a 1-phase challenge quest where you can do it in.
Personally, I don't see where it can have a lot of use because it's a very risky move. I guess if you are just counting on pure luck, it could work.
Don't worry, I turn scum.
But yeah, if you do that, then yeah, it's pretty good. But if you don't, it's going to screw you over. Definitely, but especially since I have been using a unit with 99% combo on miss, and it has been missing a lot of times. So I don't believe in non 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the era of skill seeding. If your units aren't at 100% everything, then why bother using them? To be honest. Oh, sorry, I forgot to show this asset this entire time. I was gonna ask what asset. Yeah, it's. I'm sorry, Irby, but here it is. Take a good look. There's a recommended ARs. The Claude one, which gives heal and CP. The Treat one, which gives a reflect debuff on phase start. The Guman one, which removes a debuff. The Marion one, which removes a debuff on phase start, I believe. Or,
yeah, it applies nullify debuff as well.
Nullify, yeah, that's an ability. It's like 100%, isn't it? It's really high for just for one copy. The Abisu one, which is like a heal on move, so it could be good since he has defense. And the Sanat one, which is like guts, I guess. And
yeah, it's pretty much just for the extra guts meme.
Yeah, and Leaked because Dazzle meta. Let's go.
Dazzle meta. Alright, I didn't finish reading the comments.
Alright, go ahead.
Your bear said, lore. Yes, lore, much lore. Global Countdown is such a huge mage can trivialize a lot of final phases. Yeah, I suppose. It's a good meme. I used it for the challenge quest in the base statement, but mostly. I was just doing a when leaving meme team, and it just sort of worked for some reason. if anything, I'm glad that he has the means of staying alive with defense up and doesn't. Yeah, that's pretty neat. That he does have a form to protect himself and not only the unit in front of him. His final skill really is just taking the board game home with you when you lose. Yeah, pretty much.
I'm going down, you're going down with me.
Pretty much. Yes, countdown meta, we did it. Meth countdown, Calciol range is a kind of funny last second kill. Oh yeah, that actually sounds pretty funny. You could use his soulmate to move him, given a turn's grace to refresh his debuff.
He means to like move the unit up, like so you move Mephisto, and then on the second turn have soulmate.
The other unit. Oh yeah, I guess you could do that, but yeah.
Yeah.
It also can apply to phase start skills if the phase rolls over on turns 3 and 5.
Referring to the mandatory 0% turns.
Yeah, the 0%. I actually didn't think about that. Thank you for bringing it up. that is terrible.
Yeah.
In other words, Meph has synergy with units possessing weird kits that you don't want to activate. Yeah, in a way, it can sort of happen. The units are very limited, but yeah. Do the Devil's Tango with Mephisto. That's really utility. Wrestle Dazzlebot. Yes, of course.
Yes.
We are all here for the Dazzle.
Pair him up with Ketchi so that they can both be Dazzlebots and forget the rest of their skills, because who cares?
Hey.
I forgot to his attack is shit.
Not with the Dazzle advantage.
Haha!
Big brain right there. But yeah, don't worry about your asset Irby. Most of the information was already present with the statuses, and
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
most of the assets.
Yeah, but the visuals for the ARs I need to explain the present one. Okay, but yeah, sorry about that. I'll be sure to immediately display the next one. But yeah, moving on, because oh boy, we are behind. Yoritomo, if he will. Harrison. I was expecting someone else to begin. Anyways, Yoritomo. There is a lot to talk about with him. Surprisingly, I thought he was kind of a simple kid, but you know, if you break it down into pieces, he actually has quite a bit to talk about. Yoritomo is primarily a backline unit, so you almost never want him in the front, even when he has like he might have one skill related to him being in front for whatever reason. But yeah, if you put him in the back, then he can do 3 different things. He can oppress units, he can amplify your team's damage, and he can enhance your team's movement. So let's start with how he enhances movement. Essentially, all you have to do is just place him behind the unit whose speed you want to enhance, and then when he misses, he'll bestow them movement expansion. And yeah, it's as simple as that. It's a very high rate, like 90% guaranteed if you see them. So very good potential mean there to just increase your team utility overall. And what's it called? If you use a Kanan Tangaro Itsana setup, then everyone can have movement expansion, which will be fun in itself. Although of course you won't be moving multiple units on the same turn. And of course he can also oppress units, which happens in a very large 3x3 range. He can't do it directly in front because it has to be on miss. And for some reason he has 2 times oppression advantage, which you'll never want them to attack anyways, but it's there if, like, I don't know. I literally can't see in a situation where I really want to use that. Because he's always better in the back, even 4 damage, because his other ability is to bestow buffs to units in the front as a backliner. He can bestow limit at a very generous range of long slash range. So, you know, that actually eliminates the randomness of being able to buff your second unit if you decide to put him on your third slot. Because oftentimes it's like, that's random if you're buffing one square around, but in this case it will always buff your first and second slotted units with limit. And Phase Start Vigor everywhere at a guaranteed rate is incredible. This is the first unit, I'm pretty sure, that can buff everyone no matter where they are at Phase Start, and even at a guaranteed rate at that. So that's very impressive, I would say. We had some units that gave I believe, protection before to the entire board, or some kind of defensive measure that was guaranteed. But this is the first time we have like an all-board offensive buff, which would really make a lot of setups more reliable. This is probably, Yoritomo's shining case for you to pull him. You'll want to pull him because he makes damage setups reliable. He may not be doing the damage himself, but he's giving 2 buffs at a reliable rate and range. And he also does a thing on charge, which, it's just, I wouldn't say to think hard about it too much, because he's not really going to be building his charge. He has no CP abilities for himself, and he's not going to be hitting units either, so the only way you're going to build his charge is through, I don't know, like some other allies giving him CP. But if you do happen to do it, then he can give the ally in front of him crit ++, as well as change the range. So that could be. This is the second. This is the unit along with Babe Bunyan. The first cases were units who can give crit ++ to another unit. Granted, this is on charge, so it's going to be at a lower status level, but still, it's nice to have. Nice to consider that. He also has some other bonus features, such as a supplementary function with arousal and I guess what's spirit. Not too much to talk about there. It's nice to have, but it's nothing you're gonna plan around. I mean, I guess just by principle, all these buffs makes them primed to really help units that have skill conditions that activate when they're buffed. I mean, that's like what phase start. Those supplementary facilitation abilities lets them have 2 buffs in addition to the 2 from the damage buffs, in addition to the 1 from movement enhancement. So 5 buffs all in a single turn, which is pretty impressive. And lastly, he is a sedentary tank, which actually means that he, in addition to being just a world attribute and also being in the back line, so harder to reach, he also has 2 defensive buffs. Defense up on phase start, as well as turn start protection at a very high rate. You won't want to be moving him if you want to practice his tank ability though, because he'll be removing all those buffs, all his buffs, if you do. But if you don't decide to move him, then he is actually quite a tanky boy, going to be resisting fire, water, wood especially, but pretty much all attributes just because of his defensive buffs as well. And I would just recommend, bring him with frontliners primarily, as making him your main backliner, and bring him with damage dealers, people who are units who already have extended movement, and units who depend on moving. So there's a lot of units that are just big damage dealers that have extended movement, like Hogan, San Kumara, Ophion, Yolo of all people. I think Yolo's an interesting choice. He actually gets Ardor with his skill evolution and has extended movement as well, so it might be fun to actually make good use of them. There's also Thunderbird, which is low rate crit, but I guess concentration is there too. But yeah, none of these units have any statuses that overlap with the damage buffs that Yoritomo provides. You can also consider Tsukiyomi, because he is able to give himself a bunch of CP when he moves. And of course, he works as a great frontliner as well, giving crit to the units beside him. And lastly, you might even consider Jamboree Moritaka, primarily because with that extended movement, you can finally rectify his own self-push as he shoots units down. Yeah, those are pretty much all my thoughts on this unit. Would you guys like to add anything on?
Now I wish I had Yoritomo 5 to counteract.
I wish I had him since day one.
I wish I had.
I don't even have him on support, but yeah, he's
on support.
He would be good on support. What do you mean? I mean,
I said I don't even have him on support.
Yeah, I think I have Mary's, but I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, thankfully, if you're lucky enough to have this on support, then he works just as well. So let's rub the salt on Irby's wounds, the fact that he doesn't have on support.
Pretty great. It's probably my favorite unit of the part.
Yeah, this is probably the only. I agree with you. This is probably the only unit that I would actually really want among all the units in this, among the 2 banners. Although I guess that's a bit of a spoiler for the rest of the kit so far. But yeah, Yoritomo 5 is actually. I can see him having long-term utility even a year from now. Even if it is a bit basic, it's extended movement is neat and the buffs are fantastic.
If you are fortunate enough to have Yoritomo 5, you can actually create 100% reliable coin scuffle setups for this current event, so look into that if you want to grind and have Yoritomo 5.
Let's have Yoritomo 5.
I'm slightly bitter.
I mean, his Yoritomo 3 is actually really strong. I didn't mention it, but his Yoritomo 3 may not have Vigor to the entire board, but he still has Limit at long slash range. So that's a really fun reason if you want to use him just for a 3 as well. So cross your fingers to get his 3 at least. Anything else, guys?
Not much. He as you said.
Irby, no, you're swinging into the Easter. Speak louder.
As you said before, he's a very simple unit, to be honest. There's not much to talk about it. It's very straightforward. Just give the unit in front extra movement.
Yeah, despite all the
that's it.
Yeah, despite all the rules I listed here, which looks like a lot, really the main thing to know is put him in the back, and then the rest will answer itself. To be honest.
I guess the only thing to take note of is just not use him.
Irby, could you repeat that? You're cutting off. Irby?
I guess the one thing you need to keep in mind when using him is just to not use him with units with overlapping buffs.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, there's a good amount of units that neither have Limit nor Vigor. It seems like Vigor seems to be more of a thing you bestow to all units, but yeah, I don't know. It would have been good for Moritaka. Rip Salgus.
What? Oh, right, yeah, I don't have... Yeah, he would have been good with Jamboree Moritaka, apparently.
Well, if that's it, then I'm gonna read up the comments so that we can save a little time.
Well, I guess you could also pair him with units immune to buff change if you want to take advantage of that crit plus in a longer range, or if you want to time it with a person's CS. But that's very specific.
It is specific, but I guess it won't be too difficult to save his charge just because he's going to be in the back and can be effectively low range from there, where it's just his thrust range. But still, it's going to be hard to build his charge in general. If that's it, then I'm going to go ahead and read the comments. Ruby, where did we last leave ourselves in? Razzle Dazzle, I guess. Okay. Shit, I came late. No worries. There is a playback for a reason. Yoritomo, the lazy. Yeah, to be honest, don't move him. He's just gonna, even in his 5-star art, he's like sitting his lazy ass. Don't move or I'm gonna like have a tantrum, basically. Yet another unit that makes me regret not having Jamboree Kagutsuchi. Note being the main showcaser of that unit. Check out his videos and you can see that he's pretty bananas. I mean, I've never used him myself, so I can only say that from passive observation. Would he be good with Island Nomad regarding move-dependent damage dealers that move more? Yes, he would be good with any. look at the actual written down suggestions, not just the icons. If they fit those categories of damage dealer and existing extend movement and they're move dependent, then they would perfectly be suited to having Yoritomo in your team. And I believe Nomad does have extended vertical movement, so yeah, it's not just horizontal movement that would be helpful, but vertical too. So yeah, Nomad would be a good choice. Part 1 units in general has really unique gets to work with. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Hit the Nirunai Yakunari button. Nikunari Yakunari! Imagine pulling a 5-star. Although Part 2 has Akiha with all the different ranges to remember. Yeah, it's a bit complicated, but you know, it might be easy to. Yeah, I don't know. It's actually just a bit. I feel like I'm gonna forget it next day, but you know, you'll figure it out maybe intuitively. Basically, don't let him do anything and watch your team sweeping while being near dying. Yeah, pretty much. For 1 turn, all charged unit. He's really good to maximize damage. Yeah, I mean, vigor and limit, and also facilitation with a limit by reducing your team's HP. All works out fine. He sits there like the bum he is, and you benefit from it. Yeah, the ultimate bum. My team for Dungeon is Christmas Rata, Yuma, Summer Faceless, and Yoritomo. In that order, I wouldn't put Christmas Rata in the beginning. But anyway, yeah, let's move on. We are finally going to talk about the last unit of the banner. Babe Bunyan, if you will. Zalgus.
Okay, I'll try and make this quicker since we're kind of running on long. Okay, so Babe has a pretty simple kit. He has by far the highest attack of all 4 stars. He's actually the 5th highest in the entire game, which is pretty neat. He has crit plus at 90% rate, and attack up at a 100% rate on face start. The crit plus on attack. At 3-star, the attack up is only when appearing, but that's not too big a problem for the reason I'll state now, which is at the start of every turn, he gains a stacking debuff up to 6 times that reduces his damage by 0.7 times. Since this turn start, this also means he'll get on turn 1, so his attack stat isn't actually as high as it looks. What this does is basically gives Babe extremely explosive damage on the first 1 or 2 turns, I'd say. His damage is okay on turns 3 and 4, and at turns 5 and 6, he basically starts sucking. And since it's a 100% turn start rate, you can't avoid it. He'll always be losing damage. Incidentally, this also has, much like Volkh, if we ever get a unit who can skill lock allies, that would be useful. But unlike Volkh, Babe has synergy with Mephistopheles in that if Babe is skill locked, he can no longer, he won't be giving himself the damage debuff anymore, so he can get a few turns to recover his damage. So you compare him with Mephistopheles and intentionally let him sit off to the side somewhere with the deal with the devil, or the price of the contract buff, so that he starts losing stacks of his debuff. It's actually kind of annoying because you can't see the debuff. You can't see how many stacks you have, so you have to keep track of it yourself. But yeah, that is certainly a pairing you could do. It would go well with Babe's explosive damage on turns 1 and 2, and then with price of the deal with the devil lasting 2 turns. So for those first 2 turns, you take full advantage of just how high his damage is. On turn 1, his damage is 23.7k with only his own buffs. Turn 2 is 16.6, and then it just gets lower and lower from there, capping out at 3,991 damage if he has a backup and crit plus at
Not
turns.
even 4k, jeez.
Yeah, it's really low. It scales down to about 17% of his original damage, I believe, when he has all 6 stacks. So yeah. Incidentally, this also means that if on any quest that has skill lockers, enemy skill lockers, you might think to take advantage of that if you're trying to run Bunyan. I
mean, if he's skill locked, he's not going to be activating crit plus.
Yeah, but you can stall for a bit.
I guess.
That's kind of the problem that I thought.
Irby, closer to the mic, please.
That's the problem I thought when pairing him up with Mephistopheles. Basically, you want to reapply the buff with Mephistopheles after the turn. I think it's more beneficial to reapply it than to actually wait a few turns to let the stacks go off, because he's not going to trigger the crit plus. It's just going to be that way for a bit, unless you're running really fully tech.
Like, everyone keeps on saying this, but you guys are thinking too hard. Just don't use him with like these cheese setups. Just use him for specifically the purpose of few turn battles. Like, it's too much effort to make use of him past that much. Jesus Christ.
It was actually really annoying. I was trying to test it last night, and he kept dying while he was blinded because he was doing nothing.
Like, theoretically, he can not activate those, but like, it's not worth it. Using it for his design purpose of just a few turn phases.
I think it's worth to skip one of those attack power reductions because
the deal with the devil.
With the deal of the devil, at least for the first time, you can skip it. But then after that, it's just not worth it.
I would say. Well, yeah, you can extend his decent. I'd say his turns 1 and 2 damage are good. 3 and 4 are decent, so you can extend that by 1 turn. But yeah, if you plan on doing cheese setups, he can do it with Mephisto and anyone who can skill lock him. So that's his main attraction of his kit. He has some other stuff. He's immune to possession and break, which are nice. They're pretty debilitating statuses. Break isn't that uncommon, so being immune to that is good. He has minor support with vertical movement and nourishment to allies, which is whatever. He also has vigor when leaving to the entire board, including himself, which is pointless. He also has the same buff or a skill as Volkh, where he heals every time he gains a buff. So he pairs with the same people. Anyone who gives him.
Zelgus, that's not pointless. It lets you see him heal, but then die anyways.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Very funny in the farm quest. Seeing
So because he gives himself vigor after he dies, he can actually heal himself, but he'll still die anyway. So no, he can't cheese stuff by staying alive 50% of the time forever, which would be funny, but we can't have nice things. So yeah, pair him with anyone who has short-lasting buffs. I don't know about doing like defensive buffs, since he's primarily meant for just short battles where he bursts them on the first few turns. He also pushes units to the left when he hits them, which is interesting, if only for being the first of its kind. Most units, or all the units we've had who push left or right, have just been pushing right. So it could be useful if, for example, you have two units next to each other, but you want to push someone left to open up a gap instead of, like, if you can't push them to the right. And his 3-star kit is basically the same, but his damage is not nearly as good because his attack stat it's not impressive, unlike the 4-star, and he only gives crit plus instead of crit plus plus. His CS at 4-star gives crit plus plus to allies in front and behind him, which is unique because we haven't been able to grant crit plus plus before.
Yeah, so Yoritomo as well as Babe Bunyan are the first cases of that.
There's basically no chance of overlap unless you're running Yoritomo 5 and they both CS. So that's interesting. By the time he has no method of really charging his own CS, so by the time you get it, he'll probably be doing no damage, but he can buff his allies with it anyway, and there'll be basically no chance of overlap. He doesn't really have any AR synergy, since just hits things very hard. So just pick whatever gives the most attack, or if you need evasion piercing with shooting stars, which is nice, or whatever. So in conclusion, high-powered water unit, shot unit, but he only lasts for the first few turns, and then he ramps down to dealing really poor damage, capping at 6 turns. Minor support elsewhere, but his main draw is just his explosive damage for the first few turns.
Yeah, pretty much. He's a pretty good unit to bring forward the coin scuffle. Either that or Kresnik, but if you don't have either, then you're kind of screwed for the coin scuffle. But yeah, there's not much else to talk about this unit. He's designed for really short phase battles, and that's it, I think.
Unless you want to cheese things out with Mephistopheles, Yolok.
It's just like Soul, except you can circumvent it.
I guess.
You get the first 3 turns and never again will you be this.
I'm still baffled by that. It's like, and you have to move him, don't you, to do that, to get his defense to everyone? Well, maybe for his
he can't even give defense to anyone anymore. Only on CS. He can only heal. That's it.
These two are made for together, Soul and Babe Bunyan. Damage in the beginning that does nothing after, and defense in the beginning that doesn't exist after. Rip. Is that everything we have to talk about for this unit? I have pretty much nothing to talk about this unit.
That's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, not much to talk about, so I'll read the comments, I guess.
Yep.
Where were we?
Summer.
Theme for dungeon is Christmas Toyota, I think.
Yeah, that was it. Kingdom was talking about his team, yeah.
I see. If you want to use Bunyan, just use Otahime, right? Yeah, they're pretty similar. Otahime, they both have the same explosive damage. I think Bunyan actually does more for the first turn. I didn't actually bother calculating it, but they're pretty similar. But Otahime lasts a lot longer, as long as you don't get her hit, since she doesn't have that silly stacking debuff. Unga Punga baby boy. Everyone's really said, let's release Otahime again, but arguably worse. Yeah, it's kind of like that. I mean, he has the different use with like pushing left and stuff, but it's kind of whatever compared to Otahime. Pair babe with to sell your baby to the devil. Yeah, it's like Rumpelstiltskin. Yes, sacrifice a cow to the devil, or I guess bull. He can activate his CS still if he's skill locked, but yeah, it's more risk than reward. What?
Herbie, what?
This was in reference to the deal with the devil, with pairing him up with Mephistopheles.
Yeah.
We were talking about he would be useless with it.
Oh yeah, I guess you could that, but yeah, that too, and get the lower quality crit. Babe and Mephisto are playing statuses as they're leaving. Yes, so they're really a match made in heaven. To the left, everything you own in a box to the left. Yes, Babe.
To the left, to the left.
Who was that song by again?
It was Beyonce.
I do not know songs. I've actually got a lot of good use of pushing left in these coin quests. Yeah, I wish I had Bunyan on. I don't have him on my account, so it's a lot harder. But yeah, pushing to the left or right is always good for herding people into one column to kill. Is there any reason to use Babe over many other war units? If you want his really strong damage on the first 2 turns, is pretty much it. If you don't need quite as explosive damage so quickly, then you can probably just pick like Otohime or something, who does comparable damage and has longer range and doesn't have the disadvantage that she doesn't have the disadvantage of getting a stacking attack reduction.
Isn't Otohime like snipe range?
Yeah, that's why I said Otohime's longer range.
I mean, but doesn't that mean she have a worse penalty too?
She has a worse penalty, but she also has a high attack stat, and she doesn't
but, like,
get...
Babe Bunyan's is like ridiculous. Doesn't matter how high it is. Babe Bunyan's actually like among 5 stars. Higher than his attack too.
Yes, he's the 5th highest in the game.
Yeah.
He's like by far the highest. But like I said, it's actually kind of deceptive because he applies that 0.7 multiplier on turn 1. So if you were to actually look at it, he has like 3.9k attack. Unfortunately. But yeah, if you really need that explosive damage, and then Babe, also for pushing to the left. Is there a clicking sound in the background? Yes, that was from me, sorry. Babe is Val and Seth, but inverse and worse IMO. I saw this mentioned elsewhere, but Babe is the inverse of Val and Seth, who ramps up. Babe ramps down instead, to his detriment.
I mean, hey, I've used Babe Bunyan like a million times over the past week, but I've never used Val and Seth even once, even during his event, so...
Because Babe has a coin scuffle bonus.
Yeah, I guess. Alright, so I guess we are done talking about this little cow thing. That is...
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I guess.
It is time for the best part of the video.
Yes.
The real me.
Time for the most overpowered AR ever. Ruby, if you will.
The best AR ever. The shard of the long pieces.
Alright, awesome. If you, please speak closer to the mic as you do this so that we can hear you ooze about it.
Basically what this AR does, it's the new AR obtainable in the Aoyama Catacombs dungeon that was recently released. It is free, so it means you can eventually max it. It gives a flat stat stack of 400, which is just the usual for 2 stars, to be honest. And it basically gives countdown resistance to units. Countdown can be a real issue whenever it is in challenge quests. It usually doesn't exist in challenge quests, but when it is, it can be a real issue, and there's not a lot of ways to avoid it. The only ways we could have avoided it before is with the 5-star Ryota AR, the Oath of Abundance, I think, or whatever it's called, and Necros. Those are Necros and Bacchus. Those were the only ways you could prevent countdown. This AR gives you an extra option in case it is ever needed. it can also be used on. It can only be used on wood units. So as a meme, I guess you can use it on Kushi in case his countdown gets reflected back to himself. If you really want to do that for the meme, just so he doesn't get his countdown back thrown back at him.
I mean, that's not too common to happen, to be honest. Reflect debuff is like you only wear that with just Tally Poker present. And
it's not very common, but it can happen, and and countdown is probably one of, I wouldn't say the worst debuff, but one of the worst debuffs you can get, because it pretty much reduces your unit's HP to 1 HP after the turn end. So it can be very detrimental.
Just turn that smile upside down and use Horse.
No. And yeah, there's not much to say. It's just a free countdown.
Yeah. Also, Fisher King looks really cute when he doesn't look like a demonic exception.
He always looked cute, he just looks more now.
There it is. But yeah, it's not that much of a stat bonus either, so don't bother using it as a stat bonus. It's even more stricken. There's a lot better free ARs on this, but as a way to remove countdown, you might consider wanting to bring it for his dungeon.
I don't think it's particularly useful for the dungeon, but it can help if you're struggling with it.
I mean, that's the only real situation you'll be encountering it in like an everyday situation if you decide to grind the Rio to dungeon for some reason.
Countdown isn't very common, and for a good reason as well. But whenever it's relevant, it's going to be useful. It isn't often, but it's going to be a very big boon. I remember the last time. I remember there was one time in that Efkari challenge quest. You couldn't really try to stall too much in challenge quests unless you killed Necros, because you would just count down your whole team or something like that. I don't remember how much it worked, but I remember Necros' countdown on the challenge quest was really annoying when I was testing out different teams. So yeah, it can potentially be useful someday.
Yeah, maybe one day. I mean, not for me, because I have the Oath of Abundance, but yeah, if you don't.
You have the Oath of Abundance, well, this is it's just like the other.
Yeah,
the other free.
There's like zero reason to use this unless you like want that 20% guaranteed instead. If you have the superior 5-star version, because that obviously just does more.
Yeah, and that's it.
Okay. Anything from you, Zagas, or should we just move on?
I have nothing to say about this.
Thank you for your input. At least you're honest.
There is not much to say.
Okay.
Shall I read the comments?
Yes, you shall.
Yeah. Removes countdown. That's tier 1 right there. I know, right? Amazing. This one is perfect for Kushi to avoid having his countdown reflected. After that, me 2-star AR. After that, meh 2-star AR. Yeah. It can be useful in a challenge quest. I don't know how much more common they're going to make countdown. Probably not, because it's very punishing, but who knows. Irby just likes this for the art. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Can I be honest? Irby specifically requested to talk about this AR, so
I like this AR a lot for the art, but I think it is good for people to get a form of immunity to countdown, because the only way you can get immunity from countdown is from a 5-star AR and from a limited unit. So this here is available to everyone, so it's pretty neat, in my opinion. Just like all the other dungeon ARs.
Yeah.
Having these immunities.
I think none of these dungeon ARs so far are helpful for me, because I have both Shiro's AR as well as Kingo's AR as well as Ryota's. So it's like, why bother?
That's just because you have all the ARs.
I actually don't have Toadies or Arcs though. Maybe one day. Closer to the mic, please.
Smiley face with a wink.
He's imitating Fisher King, as you can see.
Oh, right. You could use it with Mephistopheles. Yeah, you can use him with Mephistopheles. We talked about this before, and you can use him if you really want to use his on leaving countdown, but don't want to suffer the consequences.
Equip this AR in the Oath of Abundance and bring Necros 2, and boom, no countdown.
Yeah, countdown just for the enemy team and not for your team. That Yasuyori Mephisto synergy.
Yasuyori does countdown too, I think.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I mean, by that we can just talk about the Valkyries that have like 10% countdown rate.
Yeah, honestly, Yasuyori's countdown rate is pretty similar to that, so let's not talk about that.
Summer Shannon Mephistopheles for me. Defkari quest that could be one turn with Leonin and Bale. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it could have been one turn with many different ways, but if you were trying to stall it, it could have been a problem, that countdown at least. Considering I have a friend with a 5-star Cthulhu, the wood exception is no problem. Okay, I feel bestowing guts is more appropriate. I mean, it is more appropriate, but also there's not a lot of reliable ways. There is horrors, but every two turns. Terrible.
Okay, fine, but like, you could also use Itsama Kana Tangaroa and equip the Guts AR on Itsama. Hyper cheat right there. It is. Permanent Guts, let's go.
Itsama Kana Tangaroa does not exist.
It's so broken.
I legit forgot Yasuyori had countdown. Yeah, same. I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to use him for countdown anyways. Anyways, let's move on. We talked too long about this freebie AR that almost does nothing new, so let's just go and talk about Akiha Gongen now. If you will, Irby, the 5-star that you wanted.
No! How dare you!
So much that you got him twice.
So let's talk about Akiha Gongen then. Okay, basically, he's just a massive defensive support. Everything he does is for the defensive benefit of the team. He does a lot of, well, maybe not a lot, but some few new things that have never been done before. First of all, he can push all the units in a 3x3 range in front of him by 2 squares upwards on the start of the enemy turn. That is a new trigger timing for obtainable units. So far, we had no form of we had no trigger timings on the start of enemy turns. We only had on the start of the player turn. So that is actually pretty neat. This push actually synergizes really well with his defensive support role, because he's going to be a frontline and then wants to keep his backline and his side as well safe from harm, and pushing them all upwards is a really neat form of defense that hasn't really been explored enough, I think.
Yeah, there's LifeWonders has been super stingy with pushing units. What are the units that can even push? Most of them are like thrust or blow, and like maybe like Sasagwa 5-star as well as Ashigara 5-star, and they're neither of them are guaranteed either. So it's like, so why are they being so stingy then?
I think you have Typhon as well, but he doesn't do a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's also guaranteed.
Ashigara 4 also pushes in magic range.
Yeah, but they're like 70% or something like that.
His kit looks very complicated, but it's really not that complicated, to be honest. So basically, what he is a move slot, so you'll always want to be moving him at every turn. He bestows a lot of 1-turn buffs that he needs to keep going if he wants to keep being useful. So basically, when he moves, he bestows left and right, and to himself, and the bottom row below him, tenacity, and the bottom row below him and the row below that.
The asset
protects
is visualized here. You don't need to.
Yeah,
Just
pretty
like,
much.
please look at the diagram. You don't need to
Yeah,
describe too much space.
I know there is a diagram, but it can be a little bit confusing because there is a lot of things that he bestows to units. So basically, the units that are closer to him will be a lot tankier, but the units that are further away from him will receive a heal instead and be slightly less tankier. That is pretty much what it means. He can bestow 2 layers of protection to units, including himself, which he has. He can't bestow protection to himself, but he does have Phase Start Adamantine, which helps him stay strong. He can also bestow Anchor on demand on move as well to the units around him. And he also pulls units that he attacks after attacking by 3 squares. I don't know why 3 squares, because
You don't need 2 squares with that.
that's never going to happen, because he needed to be snipe range for that to actually work. He only really needs
All
2
range.
squares. Or all range, I guess. If you want to give him all range through some other means, go ahead and test this out.
We really need to stop talking about these niche maybe cases where we give it through like 2 different units, like, you know, give it all range to the enemy, then take it with Goemon and give it to them, and then we'll see it use. We really don't need to go to those details.
Right. He also applies bind on units in shot range whenever he moves at 70%, which is pretty alright. It's the usual skill lock.
I mean,
skill rate.
it's a bit better than something like Aizen because of the trigger condition.
It's on being after move. It's really good because it means you're not going to trigger the when being hit effects of the units, and you're going to circumvent all those things. This could have been really useful to bind, for instance, Tanetomo on the Warmonger's quest if you really want. And just move him, and he'll just bind Tanetomo before even hitting him and getting bited back by him, which is pretty neat. So basically, what he's going to do is going to keep pushing units closer, so his backline and the units around him can hit the units and have the range to do it. And then on the enemy turn, he's just going to push them away to get everyone to safety again, which I think is something pretty neat.
Yeah, it really fits his role. Like, there are a few times when it's super obvious like this of how his lore role fits his gameplay lore, and in this case it's a really strong example. He's a firefighter in the story, I believe, which means that his main function is to rescue units, and I really do think he's a unit that excels at just that, rescuing units. You can go on, sorry.
There's not a lot more to talk about him. He does have an 8 CS, which is all range, and removes a buff from allies for every enemy he hits, so he can potentially cleanse all allies of debuffs if he hits enough units. He also applies CS lock, which is kind of rare to inflict, to be honest. So if you really want to CS lock all range, just use him. He also has an interesting thing to him that helps him further support his allies, which is a phase start 20 CP one square around him, which is pretty good, to be honest. That is something that.
Yeah, and 20 CP is respectable. In comparison, Ruler is like 12 CP in diamond range, so 20 CP is definitely good.
20 CP is really good. He also has Guts on phase start, which can help him survive a bit longer. I think the main issue that he has, though, is that he has no forms of healing to himself, even though he has all these protection statuses, and he can keep rescuing the units and have all these defensive buffs. He effectively can't heal himself, so that's why I actually recommended Ryota AR and the Gunzo Kyuma AR.
Oh yeah, the Ryota AR would actually be super useful here, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you're going to be moving him a lot, and he says he doesn't have any forms of healing to himself. It does help a lot. But he can consistently keep the row below him fully healed. He has extra vertical movement, which is perfect for his role. It would have been better if he also had extra horizontal movement, but vertical movement is good enough. It helps him reorganize the party and choose which units he wants to heal for that turn and which units he wants to take the hit and be tankier in the front.
Yeah.
Which is
I think it's really just a really big. Yeah, I just think it's really neat how he's designed like that. It's like, if you think about it, he's like a fireman who's like rescuing people from, I guess, the burning building that is the front line, and then he's like, you can like bring fairy units to the back with his extended vertical movement, and in the very back you can heal them with some amount of safety and healing, so they just their recovery was like a cup of coffee and a blanket around them like a firefighter. and then like closer to him, it's like there's more defensive stuff, but he can't like comfort them as a result. But it's some more defensive, and then on the side it offers the least protection because the right percent, but it still offers protection, of course.
His rates are sort of reliable for the most part. There are some parts of his kit that aren't quite as reliable. For instance, as I talked about, the bind isn't really that reliable, and the protection is only 80%, which is respectable, but it's still only 80%, and the heal itself is only 60% as well. But still, everything else is 90% and 100%. So that's pretty good. I also recommended the Gabriel and the ABC AR, mostly because of, well, he's going to keep moving, and he also provides some CP to the units around him on phase start. So helping him give a little bit more CP to his allies can be useful. Siphon AR mostly just to further complement his role to protect his allies, just to have an extra chance to reduce the enemy's CP if you don't have a CP depleter, or if you need some extra CP depletion, even though the rate is super bad. You can still give this to him to further complement his role. And the Aoyama Onis, or whatever the R is called on the bottom, is mostly just so he has some means of protection against movement restricting debuffs, which he really doesn't have any forms of movement restricting debuff resistance. So and since this AR blocks oppression, it can be really useful since a lot of enemies have oppression. Oppression is just like everywhere. So and if he can't move, he's not going to be doing anything. Pretty much. He's also the only unit that can resist burn, because of course he is. And that's pretty much it. I don't have much to talk about it other than pair him with units that you want to keep on the back line, or you want to protect. To be honest, he's a very straightforward unit. He has a lot of utility, and he can get a little I wouldn't say complex, but it does take a while to understand
his ranges and what he's supposed to do,
and how to, yeah, and how to efficiently use him.
But it's like, because everything's so consistently designed with each other as a defensive support, it's like, even if you're not using him optimally, you're still gonna be successfully using him as a defensive support.
Yeah, pretty much.
As long as you move him, of course.
Yeah, you're going to have to keep moving him, and he doesn't have any form of protecting against movement impairment either. That is a big bad, but yeah, that is what it is. I think he's a pretty strong defensive unit, and it's not perfect, but he's pretty strong.
Yeah.
I think it will be mostly one of the things I look forward to messing around with is cheesing enemies with the push. Any units who only have one range, they'll never be able to get close enough to hit anything as long as Akiha just keeps them on the tip. As long as they don't have like increased vertical movement, like any slash, any wide slash or blow, they'll never be able to touch Akiha, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah.
I have been using him on the dailies, and it's really funny. Whenever someone survives, no one can reach my front line, anyways.
Such a generous push, being able to do that at a large range and 2 squares forward at a near guaranteed rate. If I remember correctly, it's 9% or something.
Yes, it's 90%. Yeah. Also, since he doesn't have to hit anyone to do it, it means he has no fear of ever stealing aggro. So he can literally just stand at the front line, and if it's like a shot unit, he can just like keep pushing them back and back until at that point they can't move anywhere. And if you have like a snipe range versus a shot range,
true.
Yeah, you just keep pushing them.
I mean, he doesn't have any offensive buffs for himself, so it should be pretty easy to force someone else to take the aggro while he just like stalls for time. Actually, this is one of the reasons why I really like this unit, because you see units that are good for like defense in terms of helping your units move around, and defense in terms of like the defensive buffs and healing. But you never really see the two combined together, like defensive positioning as well as defensive buffing. So I really like Akiha's design as a result. Racing, I guess, gives you the option to combine stalling, positional stalling with just tanking everything.
That pretty much concludes my thoughts on the unit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, please read out the comments and we'll continue. Irby.
Let's see. Irby, you're so lucky. Shut up. Oh, look, the hockey player. He does kind of look like a hockey player.
That's what I've been saying. Seriously, he's like, if you ever seen hockey players in like Canada, it's like they wear. It looks like a Canadian Maple Leaf. It looks like the fucking Maple Leafs, and he's wearing the white shirt too. Jesus Christ.
Akiha Gongen girl. God damn it. I'd love to have more. I'd love to have more copies of Tin. We're not there yet. This banner is furry phobic, giving me Tinda after SA81 Akiha. Damn. Luckily, I never reached that before getting Kresnik.
Not
yet. The CP scaling.
Akiha is basically a weird but better Tangris. I mean, almost everyone is better than Tangris.
Yeah, it's not a high hurdle to overcome that.
Both defensive resources to allies, heals only the third back, and CS can practically apply or remove all debuffs if you're hitting up enemies. Yeah, that's pretty much it. No horizontal movement, sadly, but Yori can help it. Bind is neat. Hopefully, we will get more enemy turn start abilities. Yeah, I hope we start seeing more stuff like this. Because
yeah, that's something I forgot to I mentioned before, but I am absolutely in love with new skill conditions that show. Like, if you remember last year, or maybe like 2 years ago, they first released on miss abilities, and then that was it. After that, like, skills changed for good from then on. There's so many on miss abilities that are really strong nowadays that it's just an essential part to consider.
Yeah. I'm all up for it. It's broken, in my opinion, having this trigger timing, but let's see how it goes. LifeWonders, power creeping OCs. 5-star snow still serves me well after all those years, but it's nice to have more options. Yeah, well, unlike Snow, Akiha can't really charge consistently his team unless you have that Gabriel AR, which is a meme. But yeah, you can simulate the snipe unit with push like Arc Cheese, but countering their pull. How good is he compared to other defensive units like Fashion Zab? I'd say he's a lot better. In terms of defensively, at least he can provide 2 buffs instead of just 1, and he can also reposition the team a lot better.
Isn't Zab's things like only 2 adjacent units too?
Yeah, the difference is that Zab can actually charge the units and can actually more consistently heal them than actual Akiha, but honestly...
Like, he has the option to stall as well, so he might be... Yeah, just by that, he might be able to heal more.
Yeah, I think he's a lot better, but... please, LifeWonders, if you're watching this, skill evolution for Fashionista Zabania.
Honestly, yeah, I would agree with that. He's not, like... I wouldn't say he's, like, a terrible 5-star, but he definitely could use the skill evo to rake in the money for LifeWonders more.
The healing is 60% proc. Lol. Yeah, it is pretty bad.
Yeah.
But at least it's there. At least it exists in some way. The healing is pensive and too restricted, compared to Snow that always heals and charges CP and other options there might choices. Who also brings both defensive buffs to the back and blessing. Yeah, but also Akiha can hold the front line, and that is pretty powerful. It's Amna copies buffs, no? If so, I think Kresnik Prayer might be useful, even if it's a bit of a loss, depending.
Yeah, I was thinking about, like, you know, people keep on talking... Wait, we're not even talking about Kresnik right now. We can get
well,
that
yeah, we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
It's Samana gives buffs, not copies. Try this guy in Lunurgeon, paired with Yasu 4-star, Fashion Wakan, and Christmas Satsuya, it trivialized the level 80 plus. Yeah, he does that. Okay, thank you. He's just the Abracadaniel, just turn and push. Damn it, the memes. I need to farm water breakthrough before I can use him. LifeWonders is always watching, don't worry. And the message has been deleted.
It is a mystery what he said. Okay, well, I will make sure to look at the video playback and judge you for what you deleted, since it's recorded on my stream what you write. But other than that, are there? I guess we're done for this unit, so let's just move on to next. We all ready?
Yeah.
All right. So next off the bat, we are going to talk about Masanori, handled by Zalgus, if you will. Go ahead.
Alright, so Masanori is our new Hikenshi, and he has this kind of gimmicky kit revolving around possession again, but I'll talk about the free stuff first because he actually lacks his main gimmick. So when Masanori 3 hits units, he applies buff reversal in a slash range, of course. It's kind of a poor rate, it's 70%, but it's alright. I think Bale has, what was it, 80%?
I think it's 90%, no?
I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure Bale has a better rate.
Yeah, I think it's 90.
Both rarities also have minor support by applying concentration in a slash range whenever he misses to allies. That's at a pretty nice rate of 8%, and arousal to adjacent allies on miss at 90%, which is it's arousal, but I guess he can do it constantly, so it's nice for charging CP. He also gives glint self on face start 80%, which is nice to have. I kind of wish it was 90% because then you would be able to get double bang for your buck for seal seeds, but we can't have nice things. And when he hits units, he will apply oppression in wide slash range behind the target. That's actually 100% at both rarities, which is pretty impressive. You wouldn't expect to get a 100% big oppression like that. Right, so his 4-star. His 4-star has his actual gimmick. So, on the first turn of every phase, and only the first turn of a phase, when he hits a unit, he will apply possession, doubt, and what was it? He'll apply weapon change. I didn't write it.
It's long flash.
I didn't write it in my bloody notes.
You can look at the stream, you know.
I was looking at my notes. I had to tab out. So he applies possession, doubt, and weapon change long slash, but only to the unit he hits. So since he's blow range, that'll be only one unit unless you weapon change him somehow, which I guess he's not immune to. But I guess we should stop talking about these niche cases, huh? But that's at a nice rate of 90%. So skill seed bait. Well, not necessarily because he has glint to patch it up. Sometimes.
Unless that fails. Don't you hate when an ability like Glint or Concentration is there, but it's like at 90% or 80% in this case? It's like none of this is guaranteed, even if it's skill seeded.
I wish it was 90% so bad, because then it would guarantee the rest of his kit like 100%. Yeah.
No, that's not.
Anyway, so doubt is a new debuff, and it's actually the same as Ellie's 5 CS, which well, I'll compare that later. But so doubt applies a 0.1 times multiplier if the unit is not possessed, or if they are possessed, they will have a 10 times multiplier. So it's the same thing as Ellie, where it powers them up if they're possessed, and weakens them if they're not possessed, but collapsed into a debuff. Not sure why they did that. Ara theorizes because they didn't have the technology, because it's a new condition. But,
it's a double conditional. Every other conditional status, it's like it either did something, given something, or it did nothing. In this case, no matter what, it does something, whether the given status is present or not.
We reached the future. The technology is here.
Amazing. Alright, so yeah, the point of Masanori is that he's supposed to punch a unit, possess them, and then they turn into wide slash, and the wide slash range behind them will also be oppressed, so they can't get away. And then with the doubt, the possessed unit will mow down the row behind them. Which I've actually tested. It's actually quite impressive. In the Outlaws quest, Tetsuok's wiped out the back row, because 10 times multiplier is no joke. And the 4-star has a different buff reversal spread compared to 3-star. Rather than the unit hit, it's around the unit hit. So left, right, and slash range behind them. So that is actually a bit of frontline support in that he can debuff some of the enemies on the front, similar to the slash range, I guess, but the main purpose is obviously to weaken the row behind. So that's pretty much all for his main function. He also has the obligatory spiritual dog warrior skill, even if it's not named as that in his 4-star. It applies blessing, but for some reason they gave it a terrible rate of 50%. I don't know why they did that. And he's also immune to doubt, which is also questionable, because not the only one who can apply doubt right now is an enemy Masanori, and you wouldn't really be afraid of Masanori if he got possessed anyway. I'm gonna just make him immune to possession instead.
Because,
thematic.
It's easy to miss own. Yeah.
They should have just made him immune to possession.
I mean, doubt is a lot more useful than possession from what I could see. Like, obviously it's stronger with possession, but even without possession, it's pretty respectable with the attack down.
So in the event that a unit is immune, or enemy is immune to possession, you could also just apply the doubt for the 0.1 times multiplier to completely neuter their damage for that turn. But yeah, unfortunately, Masanori's kind of he only works for the first turn basically, and then he's relegated to support. So I would say he works best in wide slash maps, or a wide map. So what's the dimensions? It's like 4x5.
4x5.
I remember. Map dimensions.
Oh, that's I guess that's 5x4.
5. Well, yeah, he works well in wide maps where enemies are positioned such that whoever is in the front row will mow down everyone, and they'll probably kill everyone. So that would have been interesting for a few previous CQs. But after turn 1, yeah, relegate to support. His CS, it basically does the same thing as his doubt gimmick. He possesses them, does weapon change long slash, and applies doubt. Although he does it to more enemies, since he does it in slash range this time. He unfortunately won't apply the oppression, but he'll still be able to kill most of the backline with his CS. And he also applies protection, which is good, because despite him being a frontliner, because he has to blow enemies, he's actually really squishy because he's infernal and has no other defenses besides buff reversal and possession, I guess. So the extra protection is nice to have.
Yeah, the weird thing I found about this kid is that, yeah, he does apply that possession attack the unit in front, but what about the units adjacent to that? They only get the buff reversal, and that is his only form of protection in the front line.
I mean, he's very likely to buff for some. 80% is respectable, and he has glint and concentration too. Well, probably just glint in that case.
Yeah, just glint. But I feel like Masanori's a guy who definitely goes in and then just dies, unless it's.
I looked at it. It does.
As for ARs, some of the pulling ARs might be useful if you want to get enemies in range for Masanori to actually hit. You could also use the Takamaru 5-star AR, whose name I forget.
Can you
if you want to
any of the pulling ARs?
Yeah, that Goemon one.
Oh, I was like thinking of a different Goemon AR since he has so many ARs now.
He has like 3 ARs or something, but that's the pulling AR, so you might consider getting that. So in conclusion, he's a unique unit who's works best on. I'd say he works best on wide maps, but you could also use him in smaller maps if they are positioned well, like one unit in front with lots of units behind. I would honestly, I think I prefer his support kit with his concentration, since concentration is such a valuable buff. But Doubt definitely has its uses to just mow down the backline.
I'd recommend using
Closer to the mic, please.
I'd recommend use the Takemaru AR with Watosumi, just because of his supportive role. His Doubt gimmick is probably going to be there on turn 1 and on CS, so since he's going to be filling up mostly a support role for the rest of the fight.
Yeah, that's true.
On miss 20 CP to allies, or not 20, 10 CP to adjacent allies can be pretty neat.
Yeah, and isn't it like adjacent, so you can make use of the blessing too if you put that AR on.
I guess Masanori is very good at stalling, because he can just sit in the back healing and CPing everyone forever. It's like, I guess he heals himself too for minor. I just don't see why they had to make it 50%.
Because it lasts 4 turns, obviously.
Stop making spiritual dog warrior skills bad.
That's why Heavenly Messenger only has 50%.
Blessing is not that strong.
Exactly.
Please. This isn't the Mephisto oppression.
It's pretty strong if you stack a bunch of defense buffs and damage debuffs. Which,
Get regeneration instead.
Yes. So I forgot to mention this with Volkh, but I would say along with Masanori, I'd also consider bringing along Goemon, because that way you can extend the range of possession, and if not possession, then you can extend the duration of a Doubt and give it to a lot more people than just the one unit you hit. So I think that would be a pretty cool way to maximize the utility of the one gimmick that Masanori has, because I believe this isn't a removable debuff. It really is just a normal debuff so that you can spread and steal and all that.
You didn't fix the Doubt icon.
I didn't fix it because there's nothing to be fixed. If it's not in game, then it's not on wiki, and I'm showing it here. It's because LifeWonders might watch this and be like, "Oh yeah, we forgot to add it." So
yeah, Doubt icon's not in the game. So if you get inflicted with Doubt, there'll just be a blank space.
Yeah. Sorry, are you saying something, Harvey?
I actually haven't used Masanori yet, so I wouldn't know if the icon is in game or not.
I mean, you wouldn't be able to see it from inflicting enemies either, right? Because they don't show you the icons for enemies. You need somehow a reflective debuff setup, so it'd be difficult to detect anyways, unless we have the wiki available, which is exactly what happened.
Just reflect debuff, easy.
I doubt.
Just go into that daily quest where that very rare daily quest where Triton is.
Just go to the quest where they have reflect debuff on turn 1, and they're at the very front where you can actually reach with Masanori, of course.
Yes.
I just do the Warmongers first.
And also, somehow they're somehow possession fails, but Doubt goes through. So either way, you're not gonna see it because possession's gonna
Oh right, I forgot he's low range, and the units have to actually hit. Oh right. Oh well.
But yeah, LifeWonders, add in the Doubt symbol. It's a very fun emote. I was about to say emoji. It's a very fun icon, but we can't see it as a result of
Yes, it has brain expanding, but yeah, I doubt they'll fix that.
Oh well, rip. It's not a big deal anyways.
Damn it, I forgot to say more Doubt jokes.
Press X to Doubt.
I was planning on just saying Doubt repeatedly throughout the entire thing, but I completely forgot.
Planning your jokes, I see. Same. Anyways, you can go ahead and read out the comments for this, since I guess we're going to talk about this.
Yeah, not too much to talk about, honestly, since pretty compact kit besides the gimmick. Message retracted. Good doggo lol. I love this edgy wolf. Good boy, husky. Yeah, I think he's a husky. He has a cool design.
Some huskies.
So who's excited when we talk about his skill Evo in 2 months' time? Oh my god.
Very nice, Mark.
I would say I think that they aren't, because it already has a different name, unlike Tanatomo and Yasuyori, who actually had Spiritual Dog Warrior to Evo, but
I mean, it's on its way.
Well, yeah, but they don't give it.
Imagine them giving a skill-specific Evo just for his 3.
No. Yes, Evo it to that. That would... But yeah, I doubt they'll be doing that, because it is technically better, and some of the Spiritual Dog Warriors haven't been that great. Evos haven't been that great. Like, Tanatomo's, like, WoW gains advantage against various, when Tanatomo does no damage anyway, or whatever. But I wouldn't mind if they evoed and gave him something useful, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, this kit's pretty much fully designed ready.
Edgy Dog. Bale is 80% and Masanori has glint. Oh, okay, so...
I thought for sure it was 90, but I guess it's 80.
Too bad it's not 90. Then I'd actually have a bigger reason skill seed. Yeah, I guess it's similar enough then, since Masanori has glint. I'd really want to see a team of him with Ellie just for the potential of the second enemy line. Yes, I guess you could stack Doubt and Ellie's possession strengthening for a times 100 multiplier to possessed enemies. Actually, maybe I should do that. That would be a good meme. Husky, yes. Is that like the third person who said Husky? Cookies and Cream Dog. Ironic, he cannot be applied doubt, but Masa is always doubting himself for being a cat or a dog. Yeah. Imagine a necromancer with healing. He doesn't really have any necromancy skills, huh? It's like no like guts or like reviving people.
That is very weird. To be honest, for a necromancer, he doesn't have any necromancer abilities. The other necromancers we had, at least had a.
Omri Tigra is my favorite necromancer.
Some form of.
Yeah, like Tadatomo has like the gut spam on everyone.
Horus has the gut spam as well.
There's no guts here at all.
Short possession is cool for a necromancer too.
That's not what necromancers do though. He has to blow enemies. Yes, he has to blow enemies. Yeah, I tried Masanori with Goemon, and I usually just get Obstruct or Buff Reversal spread instead. Nice. I wanted
to my understanding, it looks. You can look at my challenge quest video for what's called the Outlaws, and it seems that debuffs he consistently spreads debuffs that haven't applied first. So if he's the first one to attack, then he'll spread Obstruct because he just applied it. But there's also the case where a different debuff was extend first, and in that case it seemed like he always spread that one instead.
Well, doubt spread would be neat, but yeah, that sounds silly. I really love his second outfit and how he's the second unit out of this batch with no sexual aspects. Plus, he's one of my favorite breeds of dog. I can't help but find it cute. Yeah, I think his second skin is pretty neat. It's very not snappy, spiffy. I don't know. It's nice to look at. Also, the doubt immunity is probably just reflect debuff, but I would think possession would happen first. Yeah, it would. Possession should eat up the reflect debuff. So I have no idea why he gets down. Bloody.
It means look, they made it as a new status. I was mentioning this before, but what's it called? Doubt is probably going to be released more often, along with possession in general. I'm just imagining a whole bunch of skill evolutions being released for really old possession units. Like, fucking Christine's shit-ass possession rate, it could be improved just by adding doubt to it.
Just like what happened with Poison Reversal and the other poison.
Okay, Shenong is a different thing. He cares about poison, so besides the start date, but whatever.
Yeah, Lucy Fuge, that is pretty much the king of all diseases. Doesn't count.
It doesn't count. He has paralysis, that's neat.
Volkh likes the poison. arousal should be one square around to sync with concentration. Yeah, it should. I mean, arousal's not that strong. I don't know why they did just kind of made it only adjacent, but whatever. I doubt he'd be effective unit, amigo. Oh, alright, we're talking about Hombre being a necromancer. Gotta wait for this necromancing schemo. The technology isn't there yet. I mean, we already have units who can revive people when they die. Like, what was it, Kanan Tangaro? Was it Kanan Tangaro?
Kanan can revive, but they have to have 0 HP first.
Yeah.
But there's also units that can revive themselves, like Festival Ryota.
Oh, Babe.
Babe can't revive himself.
He's just like, I live, bitch. Okay, I'm like, I can only be here for the next hour, so I'm not fighting.
But yeah, but a lot of units can revive.
Walking off screen and dying.
A lot of units can revive other units. Like I think Maria Horus can also revive units pretty well with his heal, even without his guts.
I think Ryota can do it, can't he? Because
Ryota can revive. I used him with Shiva before, and just to make sure he didn't die on that Valentine's challenge quest.
Fun fact: if you're using a fully seated Tangaroa and with Itsamna, was both glint and concentration, his revival will be guaranteed. 70% revive tease.
Big meme.
Damage.
There are a few more comments. So, morning, sorry, I'm like, hello. Manasai, the what?
Manasayori.
Manasayori.
Masanori, I guess. People die when they're killed. Yes, they do. Possession meme team with Volkh and Ellie and Yas. What? Yas. Why Yasiori?
No, I think it's Yas.
Oh, Yas.
Oh. Yes, Suriori.
My mistake.
Although that could be good, because if they do, they would stack as a result being different, so that'd be 100 times multiplier. Was Dowda and Ellie's gut strength.
Yeah, I may test that out. Just, I mean, it'd be kind of hard to get into to live unless Ellie hits first, because guts.
But then you wouldn't be able to give doubt.
Wouldn't you?
They need to have at least 1 HP to give for you to give the debuffs, right?
Well, I mean, assuming that Ellie doesn't kill them, then again, she probably will.
Well, it'd be easier to do it with Masanori first, since he doesn't have much attack stat in the first place. He's not designed to kill units. Look at his piddling attack stat. So it should be fine if you attack with Masanori first and then Ellie.
I think Maria can... yes. I think Maria can also revive, or maybe that's just the challenge quest. I think she can, yes.
Annoying when you're doing the skill dailies, or skill soul dailies, and then Maria just revives someone, ruining your all-range charge.
Trajan can also revive at a very low range. I remember Milk complaining about the Triton reviving Z's, which would then revive the Yaksha on the side as well.
Yeah.
With
You have to go kill Triton first, and then you attack Z's. That's the strat right there. I guess we're done talking about it with Masanori for now?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay, let's go on to... Oh no, I'm talking again. Okay, we are going to talk about Kresnik, aka the 3-star unit that also has a 4-star kit. But more interestingly, we finally have a new mentor, so for those that have been missing out on the full mentor team, you're now one step closer towards it. Because 2 of the mentors are currently unobtainable in the regular pool, both Triton and Jean. So, you know, Kresnik and now Avarga, and now Kresnik can help you with that, and Dead, of course. So yeah, but besides that, let's be serious and talk about his 4, which has a bunch more going on. So, some things to specify with Kresnik. He has an adaptive range, which is to say that he has that archetype of being able to change his weapon on the first time he hits someone. So, a couple with combo. So he is slash range, but he will switch into snipe when he misses. And as a result, if you don't hit anyone, then you'll have a second chance to hit and snipe, so your effective range is really much larger. And they do about the same damage because, well, when you're in slash range, you're hitting them twice with combo, so that's like a 1.2 times multiplier effectively from a single slash hit. And if you're missing the first hit with snipe, which has a pretty large weapon penalty, you're actually getting crit with it, so they kind of balance each other out overall in terms of the effective damage you're doing per square. So yeah, it's pretty neat because there's different ways you can switch your weapon types. If you happen to have your charge ready as well, then you can switch from If you miss with magic, then you can switch to snipe instead and hit someone again. And if you actually have your charge and hit someone, then you'll switch to slash. So you can like switch between every weapon type, which is pretty fun in a sense. Of course, it's not really something you can meme on very often since he doesn't have a very reliable way of getting his charge. But yeah, other than that, he is also he also has this gimmick of prayer strengthening as well as non-prayer strengthening. So what it does is, first off, he actually arrives into battle with prayer on himself. And if he has prayer up, which lasts 6 turns overall, or 5 turns effectively because it's on one appearing, then he will heal for 1,000 at the end of every turn. And if he doesn't have it up, that is to say, if it expires or if you happen to remove it early, then you can actually, you'll lose that HP bonus, but you'll gain instead a massive damage bonus of essentially a permanent crit, 4 times multiplier. Alright, so with that said, with those 2 factors, he actually has 2 more rules I'd like to talk about. First of all, he is a conditional minor tank. In addition to having the prayer strengthening with healing, he is also has some slight resistances to shot and snipe range, which, if you use him for kiting, which it seems to me he's designed for that for anyways, then you can, he's resistant to that, and it might be good to keep him back as a result. And he is also resistant to debuffs every turn start. He gets a free nullified debuff. So besides his being a minor tank in some specific conditions, he is also a timing specific damage dealer, which is to say, depending on timing, he can do massive damage. Well, maybe not massive, but just like respectable. So on the early turns of each phase, he'll have his attack up and nourishment up for himself, which is like at a 100% and 90% rate. That's just itself, but they do expire eventually until the next phase. And he also does more damage later on once prayer finally expires. As a result, the strongest he'll really be is in very late phases, in the beginning of those phases. So in the diagram pictured here, there is a table of what damage he would do per square, depending on which buffs he has up and which weapon he's hitting with. As you can see, the difference between hitting twice with slash versus hitting once with snipe with combo is not very big, although he does like bigger damage with snipe, but it's just to illustrate that they're basically around the same amount of damage. And when he doesn't have prayer, then he actually does a good amount more because it's effectively like a crit in itself. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about his overall functionality, I would say, in terms of the units and ARs bring with him. Considering the nourishment strengthening AR, since he always gets one for free in the beginning, every phase, that just increases his tankiness a bit more by increasing, giving his defense a 0.8 times multiplier. And also consider equipping pulling ARs on him. Not that he has any problem with reaching units, but his entire meme is being able to, like, one of his important memes is just switching between weapon ranges and always having a unit being accessible to hit. This will just give him more options with how you want to hit them. Like, for example, like you wouldn't be able to reach, what's it called? Actually, scratch that. If you want to hit them with slash range first for a reason, then there's a reason. And if you don't have your charge up, then you can pull them closer towards you if they're in, like, that weird diagonal side that magic range can hit, but just shot can't. And in addition to that, you might also want to consider ARs that give CP per turn, so CP for longer phases, because, like I said, he could be good for kiting. For the first turn, he can like shoot enemies, pick a column, and then from then on, he won't do any damage to them once his combo runs out, so he can't actually attack with snipe. He'll just be in the back, being slightly tanky, as I mentioned before, with that aggro. In that case, he could just have that CPAR on so that you can build up your charge and get magic range again, which his charge actually refreshes his combo, so keep that in mind if you want that. That would be that non-prisoner's use AR. You may also want to bring units who are frontlines that provide damage buffs. That is to say, they provide buffs, damage buffs behind them. It's kind of rare because honestly, it seems like LifeWonders is primarily sticking with the archetypes of units who are backliners who damage buff the frontline, or units who are frontliners who provide defense buffs to the backline, but they haven't really solved it too very often. Some cases are Oniwaku, who can provide Ardor as well as a combo to refresh him, so he can perpetually use it and not rely on his charge for that. And of course, for more relevant to this current Coin Scuffle campaign, you may also consider using Tindalos, who can give Berserk and Ardor to units adjacent. Yeah, those are all my thoughts on this unit.
Obi?
My thoughts on this unit is that it never showed up in my pool on this 4-star rarity, unfortunately. But also, I agree with what someone else has said on the comments. The fact that combo isn't 100% is very annoying. I have him skill seeded with 9 skill seeds, so it's 99%.
Really, Irby, you're complaining about already.
He still misses, and that is very annoying when it happens. I know in his 4-star this issue doesn't exist because of prayer.
Yeah.
At least as often, but still, it is very annoying. I think he's a pretty neat unit. To be honest, he's probably one of the best mentors we have right now, in my opinion.
Is he? I mean, I haven't used them yet, so I wouldn't know in terms of mentoring.
He's pretty respectable. I've been using him in rarities.
Who would you replace?
Honestly, it is a very controversial thing, but I would replace Avarga.
Nah. How else are you gonna defeat the bosses?
With other units.
Tickle them to death with treating magic range?
How are you going to reach Fisher King with Avarga?
He has evasion, just put him on his side, and Fisher King always goes down in the next turn. He always goes down in the next turn.
No, he doesn't.
Why would he not?
He sometimes goes up.
Why would he do that? What?
Yeah, so sometimes other units move and he goes up.
Are you sure? I looked at their kits and it seemed like everyone had a frozen movement. Or...
Oh, right. I was leveling Necros, so I was binding units.
Oh. I see.
But see that. That is exactly why.
For that specific case when you're binding units like a dumbass when you shouldn't be.
But yeah, I would definitely replace Avarga, mostly because the evasion phase start thing I already sort of have with the Toji AR on Triton, so I can keep him on the front line if I need someone to stay on the front line in the start of the phase, just to take a hit. Also, the extended movement is completely unnecessary since I do use that a lot, and I like him.
I mean, I do too, but you know, it's like 3 turns, you can only do so much.
You usually don't need more than 3 turns.
I do. Well, I'd like to test him out. Maybe I'll replace 3-star Dead one day. I don't think I'll ever replace Varga because I don't have any way of killing bosses otherwise.
I think he's a very good replacement for Dead, but to be honest, anything is a good replacement for Dead 3-star. Anyone is using Dead 3-star. Just replace him immediately, if you can.
Yeah, but like in terms of his utility, actually in dungeons, I'm not sure what exactly you do besides taking a column's aggro up. Like I said, it would be good for just that, what I can tell, just him aggroing a column, and then, you know, not killing them so you can just focus on the rest of the board safely. But, you know, it would still be an issue if they can reach him for like shot or magic range.
I mean, he is capable of killing other units.
The shot in magic, and yeah, he does deal respectable damage even on his 3-star. And shot range and magic range units in dungeons aren't really that dangerous.
Yeah. And he has the extra too for a bit of time.
The most dangerous ones are the thrust ones and the low range ones.
Yeah, but would you agree with that assessment that you primarily just use them for kiting and bringing aggro for 1 column? Or do you have
primarily
anything else?
yes.
Okay,
primarily yes. He probably wouldn't be able to one-shot a whole row. It would really depend on the enemies on the row, but yeah, it would be pretty useful for that, especially since Dead already has the extra vertical movement as well.
Yeah, so you can position him to like take a column up whichever you want in the beginning.
Yeah, pretty much.
Unfortunately, Kresnik falls just short of one-shotting Nether Jack-o'-lanterns, as I have found out, at 3-star. You would need to seed him slightly, or perhaps give him a stronger AR. But
good thing I'm already on it.
Nice. But yeah, did you say to pair him with people who can give combo, just so that he can keep refreshing?
Well, I said specifically Oniwaka because it's like he also provides damage buff that he doesn't have. But yeah.
But does Oniwaka give combo?
He does.
He does. The Setsuban variant does give a combo behind him.
I never remember what that guy does.
Fair enough.
You could also pair him with people who can steal his prayer away.
Yeah, so Tuscal Epoca. Actually, I mentioned earlier, maybe falsely, that prayer would be stolen first, but since it's one appearing, it might be stolen first. I don't know. The whole LifeWonders really needs to make clear what is the order when it comes to like buff stealing and buff copies and all that. It's something that's really not.
They don't even give us the values for the buffs.
Yeah,
really expecting that?
I want it. I may not expect it, but I want it.
How would we ever know stuff like Volph's kit, which has all these invisible buffs? That it's like, how would you ever know what they do?
Learn Japanese.
You would barely know it there either, because that doesn't have the values either. You could only
go into battle and then do the clash quests and then manually calculate the difference, I guess.
It's like non-demon strengthening, cursed strengthening. It's like, what does that mean? You wouldn't know anything unless you had the wiki values directly. Anyway, stealing prayer could also have the detriment of stealing Kresnik's combo off of him, which would render him not that useful for the first turn or first phase. But you have to take the loss somewhere if you want to get his prayer off of him.
Yeah. But yeah, stalling could be good for dungeons for sure. I definitely stall fairly regularly at the first the first 3 turns of every phase is pretty much just doing as much damage as you can and eliminating as much as you can with Dead's big HP suck. And getting away scot-free with evasion from like Evargo, or I guess if you have the AR on Triton. But like other than that, the remainder of the trends is like you're not gonna have as much movement as you'd like, so like Kresnik could be helpful for stalling and all that. Is that all our thoughts for Kresnik?
That is all our thoughts for Kresnik.
Yes.
Are you sure, Irby? Are you sure you don't have any more thoughts like, I want to pull him again?
How dare you?
Alright, let's just move on to 6.
Irby waits for anniversary.
Rip. I mean,
I guess one thing that wasn't on the video is that I guess you can equip him with the Suzuka AR if you really want that evasion.
Yes.
By hitting multiple units on snipe range. Wow, what an amazing deal.
I guess that is an option. Not the best option, but is an option. I don't know. I didn't really look at the ARs too thoroughly for this. I mean, I picked a few here, but it's like you don't. He does fine without pullers. I just thought it would meet, and nourishment strengthening's multiplier is kind of a joke, but I thought he has nourishment. Why not? And for the CP, it's a 3 stars, so you're not gonna get that much CP from it anyways. But he's gonna be stalling, so it builds up.
Pretty much it.
Okay, then I will read out.
Also,
the sorry, go ahead.
One thing I forgot to say. I think he works pretty well with the. I think it's probably just because of these daily quests, but I think it's really useful to have him alongside Akiha and Tindalos because of that CP generation. He'll always have his combo up, regardless of everything. That does happen. If you have some form of charging up his CP, you'll never run into that issue.
I guess true. That or someone who managed gives a combo, but yeah, I see what you mean. If that's it, then I'm gonna go ahead and read out the comments. Is that right?
That is it.
Okay, where did we last leave off? You guys talk way too much. Not you guys. I mean, not you, Irving Douglas. I mean these guys in chat. I tried Masanori Golan buff spread. Already said that. Also, my doubt in
It's yes. No. I think Maria can also revive.
Where is it? I don't see it. Someone, who's saying it?
Law. Look for a hot beard.
A hot beard. Okay.
I think they were just telling Kresnik's beard is hot.
Oh. Am I an idiot? Am I actually stupid? I do not see this.
Yeah, it's Law saying yes in all caps.
Oh,
then
I see. Law saying yes. Alright, so it's Law XD yes. Alright, sure. That took way too long. Anyways, Miles, we will start with you. I think Maria can.
I already read that one.
What? The one after?
I already read that one. I was just saying yes because it was easy to find.
Yeah, okay, yes, so hot beard. I see. I hate that 90% combo. That's such BS. I mean, it's not an issue with his 4-star, but for mentoring, yeah. You're just gonna lose out on his utility entirely. Just imagine slash range Kresnik just in the back, not having combo, just looking pretty back there. That's why I'd be reluctant to replace someone, much less of Argo units. Well, whatever. You only use his snipe range once for some reason. Damn, I missed out on Tindalos' discussion. I mean, you'll see the playback, it's fine. You didn't, he's the last one. Oh, right. We didn't talk about it yet. He is the last one. My bad. You didn't. Right. I think it was Akiha I missed, I don't know, because I slept for 2 hours. Very nice. You missed part 1 and Akiha. Damn, I don't know how to vocalize that emoji. Miss on 99%. Yes, he's a great mentor unit. I'm sorry, did I just hear sarcasm? Perhaps. That's like half of the things we say are sarcastic, so it's kind of hard to tell nowadays. Full mentor team, let's go. Prayer show. Yeah, actually, if you try to level up what's called mentor at limit break 3 from 50 to 60 with only 5 mentors, then it'll take them no matter what 2 runs between 0 and 5 mentors. However, if you bring 6 full mentors and you're leveling up one of the mentors from 50 to 60, then they can actually reduce it to 1 run only. So let's go, the full mentor efficiency. Prayer shows up first on his status list, so it gets stolen by ally and test Kalipoka easily. I see. Well, hopefully that is consistent and not just, a fluke. But yeah, if you want to steal it and give it to Tez, it could be good for synergistically for both units. If you want to go, double down the offense. Because to be honest, like we kind of been talking about prayer strengthening as if it was like, what's called a negative compared to non-debuff, non-prayer strengthening. But 1,000 HP is respectable. That's a large amount of HP. You might actually want to keep prayer up as a result. And as a result, you might want to consider bringing Kana and Tanguro and Itsamna again to stall out prayer, if you have the prayer, the AR that is, to give that permanent 1,000 every turn. No need to level up units. I want my 5-star OD off the back. I want my own too. The Scotty Pickle converts to Catholicism. I see. I mean, shouldn't we all be converting to Catholicism, to be honest? Anyways, yeah, that is everything for comments. I guess I'll just move on to the final unit of this discussion. Is that right? Everyone ready?
Yes.
Maybe.
The final best, maybe worst unit ever. Because he and Akiha stole Kresnik 4 from me.
I see. It is time to talk about Irby's favorite unit that he successfully pulled and didn't want to pull anything else. Tindalos. Let's go. Irby, go ahead.
I mean, I'm not that upset for pulling him, to be honest. I think he's so basically.
Oh yeah. Tindalos. By the way, closer to the mic, so we can hear you for.
So Tindalos, he's an offensive support unit primarily, that can also be a board wiper at certain regular intervals. He can also do something unique. A lot of these units do a lot of unique things that previously were not available before to us, but now are. He can drain his allies' CP whenever he moves, so that is pretty neat, which allows him to actually control the flow of your party's charge. Something to take note of this before I continue to talk about everything else. If you try to use this to drain a unit CP, which was already at 100, this will have no effect. This charge skill will.
Don't worry, you were at the part where you're saying
it's not. It can't get any closer.
Okay.
But if a unit is at 100 CP and you try to drain it, the CS is still going to go off. It's not like it's not like CS lock on himself.
What is that? That sounds like a bug. The fuck?
No, it actually does go off. I use this a lot of times on my days, and the CS still goes off even if you move and use their CP before the attack goes. So this is something to actually keep in mind. I'm not sure if it's a bug or not.
I mean, it should be. They fucking allowed like CS lock to work whenever it was applied. Like,
yeah, but that's CS lock, I guess. I don't know, but it's just how it works, and it's just what I've been experiencing in all my days. I try. So, for that reason, I actually try to prevent the units from reaching too high of CPs, so it doesn't reach the point of 100 where I can't control it anymore. So basically, it can help stall up your own unit's CP to use them at the right moment, and he's also a potential tank. Because I will talk about his main gimmicks, which is pretty much every multiples of 3 turns, basically turn 3, 6, 9, 12, etc. He will grant himself 100 CP, crit plus, and weakness to himself. Which basically means he gets a free CS with crit plus on turn 3, 6, and 9. This will obviously deal a lot of damage. His TS inflicts taunt to himself. It heals him a little bit for every enemy hit, and also deals extra damage to Stigma, which is pretty neat. If you want to pair him up with units with Stigma, that is something you can do. You can also inflict Stigma, but it's only at 70% and at a very limited range, as shown there. There is a tiny caveat about this because he applies this weakness and the taunt to himself. If he doesn't clear the board, or if the board isn't clear after this, it can be potentially dangerous for Tindalos, because he can actually die very easily if you're not careful. But there are lots of ways to go around this to ensure that doesn't happen. Every other turn that isn't a multiple of 3, he gets evasion at 100% to self, which is honestly possibly one of the better kinds of defensive buffs you want to keep on the front line. He does deal flat damage to himself after each hit, which will potentially kill him over time. It's primarily to compensate for his almost permanent evasions outside multiples of 3 turns. But you can potentially put him in the front, and he will be able to take a lot of damage without even with barely a scratch. I mean, if he gets hit 3 times, it's only 1,000 in hit 205 damage he's going to take, unless the units have evasion penetration, which is something he also has. He also has innate evasion penetration, which is pretty good for his board wide. And that's it. I pretty much talked about his board wide capabilities. For his support capabilities that aren't his CP depletion, he has on miss Ardor 2 allies 1 square around himself at 80%, which is alright, and Berserk plus at 90% to allies directly adjacent.
Gotta love that skill seed bait. It's
very skill seed bait, but the problem is that Ardor is 80% still.
I know. They've been releasing a lot of skills with 80% lately. You think this is a sign for skill blossom soon?
I don't think so, but let's see. Right, these trigger activations are on miss, so this means that Tindalos, since Ardor is a 2-turn buff, whenever he reaches turn 3 or whatever, that means that he won't be able to rebestow Ardor to the units beside him, which means your units are probably going to be slightly weaker during his CS spam turn, which can be potentially an issue. But to be honest, you probably want him to clear the board anyways on that turn, so it's probably not going to make a lot of difference. And that is essentially it. Outside the crazy trigger timings, this is a pretty straightforward unit that bestows 2. One of them is very common buff, but the other is very uncommon. Berserk plus buffing isn't very common, and whenever it is, it's usually tied to on move or only at turn 4. You start or turn 5.
That's how Pokemon called out.
So it's pretty neat to have this unconditional Berserk plus buffing. It pretty much just let him exist, and he will give everyone Berserk plus that is adjacent to him. Which is pretty neat. He's also immune to fear. I mean, he doesn't need to move a lot. His only functionality after moving is applying stigma on his very limited range, which are probably better off inflicting stigma with other units that you're going to pair him with, rather than just moving him, because that is an abysmal 70% rate, and not a very good range either. And also the CP depletion, which is completely optional. A completely optional role you can choose to take with him. The one thing I wanted to talk about, which is very interesting, he can actually equip the weakness immunity AR, the Kengo AR, on the.
Didn't even realize that. Wow.
So you can actually nullify that weakness if you really want with that AR.
Tindalos says weaknesses do not exist.
And it's also really funny because it also boosts the CS multiplier.
The perfect AR from.
The perfect AR. So that's pretty neat. I also recommended other ARs there. Just mostly the Shiro AR, mostly for the extra support that he can provide to his team. Shiro AR is always good.
Yeah.
The Alice and Volos AR for the extra percentage rate, because you kind of want him to trigger those Berserk plus in Arlor buffs. Otherwise, it's going to be a very bad time. The Kotaro AR, I just did it as a meme. If you really,
why would you want your chunk early?
It's mostly just for the higher CS multiplier,
I guess.
If you really want. And the anniversary AR mostly just for the free heal, since his only method of healing is really through his CS, and it's not even that good of a healing, to be honest. And the Fenrir AR, just if you want to try your luck and you don't have the Kengo AR, just move him to see if you can remove his weakness if you really want. I don't think the weakness is that big a deal, to be honest. It can be dangerous, but if you know how to work, how to play the game, you're going to be able to circumvent him pretty easily.
Or just blow everyone up first, since that's what he's trend.
Yeah, and another thing I didn't talk about is that his crit plus is also on turn start, so which means that Christmas Eager can steal it as well. Outside of
Christmas Eager being able to steal crit plus an invasion constantly. I thought that was good synergy.
Yeah, that is pretty neat. Usually Christmas Eager only had access to crit plus, I think, through phase start activations and CS activations. So I think this is the first time you can actually.
Yeah, Christmas
I think he had crits. I think KG can also do that, but I'm not sure. I don't remember KG's kit, but I thought it was pretty interesting synergy with him, even though he is immune to Berserk plus.
Oh yeah, well. Never mind, it's not as good as I thought. That sucks. Oh well.
But yeah, it is a pretty neat kit.
Yeah, I would agree. So I'm surprised you didn't mention bringing Snow with.
Oh, well, I forgot to mention something. Since you want units to apply stigma on him, there are. I think there are only 2 units that can apply stigma to the whole board like that.
I'm surprised there's even more than one in that case.
There is Furufubi, which can apply it every 3 turns, coincidentally, which is amazing.
Yeah,
because
perfect.
you want that every 3 turns as well. Unfortunately, it's only 50%, but you take what you can get. And there is Jiangxi Krampus, which is only at every 5 turns.
Oh, what ugly
So you can only get it on 6 turn, on the 6th turn.
And then it's gonna desync, and then no thanks.
Yeah, it's just if you really want that full board stigma. There are a lot of units that inflict stigma, so you can just play around with them.
I mean, it's a lot of work. It's just a 1.6 multiplier anyways. It's like you could probably get away with doing a different setup to increase his damage more than that.
Yeah, but, just stack him with more buffs.
Yeah. It is an option that has existed since the beginning of time, and it will always be an option to buff stack. But yeah, also, yeah, Snow. Thoughts on that? Berserk plus strengthening? What?
What?
You didn't mention Snow.
I did. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I actually talked about this before, but to be honest, fuck that. Who cares about that?
But the damage with defense.
No.
Okay.
I thought you were suggesting the Fenrir AR to put on someone who is partnered with Tindalos to get the Berserk plus strengthening or something. Not the.
No. But that is certainly an option as well to use that AR with someone. Just choose that AR with someone. I mostly just try to focus on this.
But yeah,
To the units and ARs paired with those units.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to add about this is a specific setup that allows for a more reliable 1-2-3 charge. Tindalos is strictly a 3-turn clock with this charge that is super boosted, and we already had Christine, who's like a turn 1 charger, and we have a number of options for our turn 2 charge now for like Kotaro with the what's called the Shino Moritaka AR. So yeah, consider bringing Tindalos for that holy trifecta of 3 charges.
If I had one.
I mean, Irby has one, ask him.
I could. I actually have so many Tindaloses on my I have like 5 Tindaloses on my friend list. It's ridiculous.
I didn't get a single 5-star, but at least I have Kresnik 4.
But he is almost useless on support as a buffer.
Oh yeah, because it's on miss. Ugh. That's one thing about on miss that really sucks. Well, on attack and on miss, it's very turn slot dependent. Turn start really is like the ideal you want to go for usually.
One day we'll get the Hero feature of changing turn slot or a support slot order.
Maybe.
I doubt that.
Okay. If that's all our thoughts, any other thoughts you have on this, Elgus?
Nah, not really. Although I will say I did in fact just test the CS thing with Christine just now, and yeah, Irby's completely right. Well, I wasn't doubting him, but I wanted to see it for myself. Yes, it does. The CS does still go off. I have no idea why it does that, because the CP is visibly 80. It's like, what the hell?
That's really, really, really dumb. And also, 20 CP is so much. What the fuck? Like, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I was like, it would have made sense to even do 4 CP to deny it. But now I guess I understand why it has to be 20 CP, because you have to prematurely deny it rather than at 100 CP. That's so dumb. That's so dumb. Oh my god. Anyway, I guess we have everything done talked about. So, Irby, you are free to read the comments now.
Where are the comments?
Where were we in the comments?
Was it Catholicism?
Yes, it was Catholicism. Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's the good boy, the best unit. Ah yes, our furry VTuber is next. It's cute boy. Imagine clearing a phase in 3 turns. This meme was made by the one.
Pain, but so good.
Yeah, my new favorite unit. I only got his 3-star, but I'm already happy. Yeah, something I didn't talk about is his 3-star is already pretty decent as well. He doesn't get crit plus and gets crit instead, and he doesn't give.
I mean, I saw his chart as a 3-star. He does respectful damage for all range. Yeah. Actually,
it's pretty good. He only loses crit plus to crit and 1 attack buff. That's pretty much it, I think. He also gets worse rates for stigma, I think, or something like that. I wouldn't know. I completely I completely skipped the fact that he applies obstruct, but who cares about that?
Hey, Furufumi also applies Obstruct on the turn counter.
Wow, the synergy was there all along. Oh, milk. Okay. Yeah, my new favorite unit. I only got. Oh no, I already read this. But he kept deleting your nearby units when you move in. Oh right, the CP. Yeah, I think that's a pretty neat feature. Everything you love will become me in 3 turns. Tindalos and Satoru make good gaming buddies.
I think there's like lore was Tindalos about him injecting his.
Yes, I already saw. I think it was Julie that said it on the server. Basically, it has to do with the fact that in the lore, he's only supposed to appear at 120-degree angles. So since 120-degree angles is 1/3 of 360, that's where the 3 turns come from. Something like that. It's something very weird like that. Yeah.
Is that what like Judy's username was about? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
let's see. Tindalos, yeah, it goes off still. I'm assuming this is the CS. Yeah, it does go off still. Yeah, I pretty much always move Tindalos to always keep the CP low. Yeah, you pretty much have to, otherwise, especially if you're using Akiha as well, since he's going to be charging your CP, you have to keep moving Tindalos. Otherwise, someone is going to get their CS off. Yes, I have Alice and Volus AR lucky. I actually got his 3-star, but combined with Lianan, he one-shot most enemies on the level 70 coin quest even before the first limit break.
Oh yeah, he has a big charge even on his LB0. It's funny.
The true meme is having LB0 units.
Yeah.
Unit spam can kill him through evasion, which sucks. I mean, I don't think it's that big of an issue, to be honest. Yeah, it is a lot of flat damage if he takes a lot of hits, but you can also get hit pretty easily, and also not get hit, and also use healers and all that.
It's time for Akiha to shine. Perfect synergy.
Yeah, right there. I need to test a team of Tindalos, Lianan plus Furufumi. Lianan gets friends boost from Furufumi, and he gives Stigma on low rate to an entire board every 3 turns conveniently. My Snow appreciates the easy access to Berserk Plus. Finally, that is useful. Immune to fear, like he's not afraid. I think the fear immunity is just a lore thing, to be honest. Just so he doesn't get countered by the arm or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Furry. Oh, not included on the AR list, but he can also put on single balls club if you really wanted to boost that CS multiplier. I think that's kind of redundant since he doesn't buff himself at all.
Yeah, you pretty much only want him to charge on every 3 turns, not on outside of that, even though he theoretically can.
Alright, you would be able to CS 2 times in a row.
You're gonna do like no damage with all range.
But if you want to CS 2 times in a row, you can just use the Kotaro Andvari AR. Perfect. Just get that 50 CP and have some other form of CP generation.
How would I just use Kotaro instead?
Boy, with Tindalos, how do you make a side grade of Kotaro? Not explicitly better or worse, just a side grade. I have no idea what the side grade means.
It's like not an upgrade, not a downgrade, but it's changing things so that it's a side grade.
Oh. A similar thing, but an alternate option.
It's not necessarily something I
think they're slightly different. They're different enough to be their own thing, to be honest. They can wipe the board, but
Kotaro's better. That's your answer.
No. Kotaro doesn't attack buff your units.
Yeah.
Which means I think Tindalos is pretty good on that
True.
all range thing, because he actually can bestow buffs to everyone else. So if you can actually do that rotation of all range CSs.
Yeah, that's true. Alternating on that would be good. You're right.
I just noticed he is the 3rd unit that can apply Berserk Plus. Oh my god, he's the 3rd unit! Everything is 3, I can't believe it.
Illuminati right here.
the lore. I prefer Summer Shannon or Kotaro over him.
Rip, you're here.
What?
Oh, go ahead.
Did you say anything?
Oh no, I was just saying you heard it here. The audience has spoken. Tindalos is already outdated. Kotaro is still best.
Ara, stop the propaganda, please. I've been using him as a 1-2-3 all CS strategy with Christine, Beach, Kotaro, Lianan, and it's alright, I guess.
Alright.
And the
I see.
And the Fenrir Jamba AR is a nice pairing for anyone on the same team since it gives Berserk plus strength. Yeah, Zalga's talked about that before.
Yeah.
Regular Oniwaka 5 can also do the same and give evasion to Tindalos on the CS terms. Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Oh yeah, true. And he also can also take his evasion too.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. Amazing. Kresnik 4 gang, where are you at? Not here! Also that tongue. That place where no seeds to finish seeding him. Oh yeah, I noticed you started seeding Tindalos. It's already level 80 or something. I saw level 80 Tindalos. What the fuck has a level 80 Tindalos already? Pensive emoji. Obstruct meta. His 3-star also loses 10% from Berserk plus buffs, which is blah. Yeah. Oh right, it's 80% instead of 90%, or something like that. It's still pretty good for a 3-star.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just like
and it's 3-turn buff and it's rare too. And like a fucking Yoritomo's limit, which is 80% also, but like limit 1-turn only tease.
Tangaroo plus its Samna seems to work very well with him. I mean, Tangaroo its Samna works well with him. Tindalos is what Sasagura could have been. Seaside Sasagura has trained me for no damage all CS.
It's actually just like an anti-reason to bring him. There are units that do nothing for your team, and then there's Summer Sasago, which does negative.
No!
Forever, because he tries to heal everyone every time he hits.
I mean, I think it's slightly faster. 33999. I don't understand the reference.
No, she's just saying it's a sign all the 3s around us, I guess.
Oh. Wait. Why is this comment repeated?
Yeah,
some of his comments have been doubling.
It's probably low internet.
Or probably repeating it 3 times.
Beach Kotaro CP attack broken as hell with crit buff, or was it in crit plus?
He had crit plus.
It's crit plus. I think Tindalos can still deal more damage, but it's slightly more restricted.
Yeah.
Than Kotaro. Tindalos can definitely deal more damage than Kotaro, especially because since he doesn't need to get his SA levels high.
Yeah. To be honest, whenever I say Kotaro is better, I always mean my Kotaro is better because like their Kotaros are whack. I don't know what to tell you, but get more dupes or maybe use a different all-range charger at that point. But yeah.
It's pretty much.
Yep, that is correct. That is pretty much it. We are finally done the discussion. We have talked about all the units and ARs that have been released, and now we shall conclude it with final thoughts on the banner overall and the campaign, I guess. So, how are you feeling about these new units and what it says for the coming year? I think new semester last year told us that, it'll be the unit of gimmick units as well as downright busted units. What does this new semester banner tell you for the coming year? Closer to the mic, please, sorry.
I think the coming year is going to be very interesting, to be honest. I think last year was kind of a disappointment after new semester.
What?
Yeah, the new semester last year has such good units, but then the event units that came after, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of good units, but I don't think...
Yeah, they never lived up to the light of new semester.
Yeah. But I think this time around they're going to do it. At least the standards are lower, so let's go for it. I think the units are extremely well balanced this new semester.
Yeah, I would say for sure balanced. Well, I guess restrained is what I'm feeling. Where's my busted units like Wonders? Where's Leannan too?
I think this is a step in the right direction to get balanced units and not just okay, let's get this completely overpowered unit that completely trivializes every single quest in the game. I think it's a good direction.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think this permanent statuses can fix a lot of issues that are in the game with these busted units that have surged up in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think all these new unique debuffs, it helps a unit stand out a lot more. Like, Volkh is completely, we're almost certainly never going to get another unit who plays like him. So it really helps them stand out.
Yeah,
and it's you can almost, unlike him, say Tindalos and Beach Guitar, they're pretty similar, but you'll be hard pressed to find someone the same as Mephistopheles or the Volkh. I guess you might say Leannan is similar to Mephistopheles, but he works pretty differently, honestly.
Yeah, worse.
Yeah.
Rude.
It is rude, but it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Like nothing, at least.
But yeah, I do look forward to the new unit, since they're obviously playing around with a lot more tools, unique buffs and debuffs, and also the enemy turn phase start, or enemy turn start.
Yeah, and I agree with all of that. I want to see more enemy trends start kits, and just of course, if there's another new condition after that, bring more of those. I just want to see this year flooded with enemy trend start skills, just like on Miss what flooded the last couple years, and I am fairly happy with this banner. I guess it didn't blow me away, but it didn't completely disappoint me either. Yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts.
I am looking forward to
close to the microphone. I'm sorry for telling you every time.
I am trying my best, but I was pretty much just saying the same thing. I am looking forward to the units that will come this year if their kits are as well thought out as these ones were.
Yeah, they're that's a good way to describe them. Well thought out. Because last year they were really busted, but besides Bale, who had that new debuff, everyone was pretty much existing skill kits, but turned up to 11. Whereas we've progressed over the year to a lot more unique skill kits that LifeWonders have been pushing out more to sort of make general powerhouse kits more irrelevant and more specific case kits more present. And I believe releasing those unique statuses for each unit is the right way to go. I believe releasing these strengthening abilities and weakening abilities and reversals is the perfect way to make something very specific and yet still strong in their niche.
Let's go. Looking forward for the day. Yeah, that is relevant.
No. I full seated her. Her variant better be busted. That's what I'm saying.
No, I want her variant to be complete trash.
Yeah, I want her variant to add the worst thing ever.
No. Let me pull for her and let her be preceded, guys. Let me have this.
You didn't even precede her.
Yeah, well, that's all that matters, isn't it? Okay. I won't prolong this stream any longer because honestly, we have talked for almost 3 fucking hours. Jesus Christ, guys. Last year we only covered in like 2 hours total, but I guess we were just.
There were a lot and a lot of interesting kits.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of random synergies and new debuffs to explain and talk about.
I mean, they may not be unilaterally better than last year's, but they are definitely a lot more complex, which is good in the right direction. But yeah, I will leave it here for now, and just read out the final comments before closing it out. What was the last thing that was written?
Oh, whoa.
Oh, whoa. Okay, thank you. OMG, that art is so cute. Yeah, check out the Twitter link in the description to find the artist. They've made it out of the generosity of their heart, and I guess their genuine fandomness. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, it was fan art, nothing commissioned, so we were all very touched by it. Isn't that right, everyone?
Yeah, it was cool.
was pretty neat.
Yeah, we have fan art. We're celebrities. Sorry?
These celebs.
Oh yeah.
I don't expect fan art to exist.
Yeah, that's something I can, write off my bucket list, have fan art. Day 700 plus of waiting for P-Run. That's kawaii. The Housamo Bayonetta VGM is still playing. Well, it's probably not playing anymore. OP banner, but Katsuga. Next event will be the plot relevant of the year, so we might see some busted kits. Maybe. If they are busted, I'd like to have the same amount of complexity. Never forget Count Kijimon. Yeah, his kit was quite strong. And Ken Tanguro. I mean, I'm still using him now. Jesus Christ. Was revived the relevance because of Isano.
I don't ever see Kijimuna, unfortunately, in clears.
Oh man, he's a really good unit. I decided on him.
Yeah.
Oh well.
I'm honestly surprised a lot more people don't use it. I mean, I'm not really surprised people don't use it.
But yeah, utility-wise, it's just obvious.
But he's very useful.
Break and like bind without even really trying, and roll type, and it's all very good shit. Sorry, my internet lags whenever I comment, so I think it's something like I see. And Astaroth and Astarte. I mean, I don't use them, but I think Zalgus likes to use them occasionally.
Yeah, I have them partially seeded. I might actually work more on that.
OMG, I forgot about Kijimuna. I mean, hopefully we'll receive a release of that banner. I don't need anyone from that banner anymore, but everyone deserves a second chance at the Kanan banner because, again, it's like fantastic. Right beside Beachside, to be for sure. Speaking of Beachside, perfect time for this music. And Dagon. Let's pray for an inverse Katsuga unit. A unit who drains the CP to 0, and then if he gets the CP to 100, you lose.
Just killed himself.
Yeah, for sure. Mephistopheles, I guess it's kind of like that. Kasuga bombed the maps, but everything changed when the Formaho Fire Nation attacked. The heck is Formaho? I'm sorry I don't get the joke, but I will pretend I understand and laugh it off. Anyways, Natan is a great guy. Arcs still have no bind. Yeah, it was so awkward reading this story in chapter 8 about how Arc binds units, but in their kit it's just like, what, no fight buff or something. Like, please, like, on his cheese. But,
hey, Makan has the bind.
Yeah, that makes no sense. And he only has it, and he has his Arc's fire chains on him too on that part. So it's like, is he using their power? Then what about Arc? It doesn't make sense. Anyways, that was an irrelevant point, but yeah, that is everything. Thank you for joining us, everyone. It was a pleasure to finally have the stream. I know the stream was rather a long time coming. It would have been better if we talked about part 1 stream separately and earlier when, the part 1 banner was still open. But, we got lives too. We kind of wanted to relax a bit, and, well, I'm mostly speaking for myself. And,
It ended up being the opposite, though.
How so?
Because then it completely packed this week, because then you had to do way more notes in 1 week.
I mean, think about it this way. It would take 2 sessions if we split it up into 2 streams, whereas I can mentally justify packing it into 1 session, and thus feel overall less stressful for this 1 stream, even if it is larger.
Fair.
But yeah. Anyways, we'll try not to do that for future things, but for new semesters, I don't know.
It'll probably happen again.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, yeah, thank you for joining us. Let's say our goodbyes, everyone. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Bye.
Bye.
We really need to synchronize better somehow.